Council meeting to order. Today is February 18th, 2025, and thank you guys for being here and sticking around after my State of the City address. I really appreciate everyone here that was in the room, online, and like I mentioned, we are going to move the city forward together, one meeting at a time, one conversation at a time, and it's because of all of you that this city has so much heart and why there's so much passion to make sure that this place can be the best it can absolutely be for everyone who calls this place home. So with that, we will move into the invocation by our one and only Pastor David J. Butler from Faith Assembly Christian Church.
Thank you, Mayor. Would you bow your heads with me, please? Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for our gathering tonight. We thank you for the leadership of our city. We pray, Lord, that you would bless and keep us. Thank you for the beautiful nature that we are privy to live in, to work in. And Father, we just thank you that you are the Lord of our city. We ask now, Lord, that as Proverbs 28:19 states, that without a vision, people perish. We thank you for the state of the city that we just heard. Our future is bright, and we give you the thanks for that. And now your blessing is this: may the Lord bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you and be gracious to you, and may he give you his peace. Amen.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Councilwoman Aber, please lead us with the pledge.
Please join me with your hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, guys. Where's Kim at? All right. Before I move forward, it's going to be a little unorthodox. One of the resolutions that we passed last meeting, doing with the hotels, I would like to create a motion to rescind, a motion to rescind. And since I've talked to Kim on this, since I was a voting member for that to break the tie, I'm getting eligible to bring my one motion forward to rescind that. I would need a second, and then we would discuss the rescinding of that ordinance for the hotels.
I'll second that.
All right, so as far as, then at that point, I'll open for discussion. Kim, could you help me with the ordinance number for the hotels?
Do you remember it offhand, right? I'll pull it up.
Okay, so just I wanted to be open and honest with it all. It was a long night, and I quite literally, regrettably, I feel went the wrong direction in this. So that's why I wanted to bring it up. Even if it gets struck down, I just wanted the public record, to show where my intent was, and that I regrettably went the wrong direction on this. 2501cc.
2501cc, yes.
All right, thank you. All right, so that is the ordinance that is on the motion for rescinding. And with that, I'll call the vote to open up that ordinance. Discussion? Yes, discussion on the opening.
And just one point on it, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, Councilmember Destin, but just to the mayor's point, we're not rescinding passage of the ordinance because the ordinance didn't pass. It only passed on first reading, and second reading would occur at the next meeting anyway. So if we do a motion to rescind, the rescission would go on the next meeting. So
correct.
It may make sense to just vote on second reading and get to the same place anyway, but I will leave that to you. You can do it either way. You can do it either way.
Correct, and we talked about that. I just wanted to have the public record reflect my personal views on the matter. So regardless of what happens, I just wanted to make that point moving forward as far as me being on the affirmative. Councilman Destin?
Point of order.
Yeah.
Under Robert's rules, a motion to reconsider would be proper first, and then a motion to rescind. So
correct. Yeah. So we're voting on the opening up the reconsidering.
The motion is to reconsider, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Not to rescind. I'm sorry. Yes. Correct. Thank you. All right. Any other discussions on the reconsider motion? All right. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. We had to do this when we had a full house, didn't we? everyone gets to see that I said I messed up. I'm sorry. There you go, and then. All right, ayes have it, so moved, so we'll push it back to first reading on the next meeting. It goes back.
No, so we will put the motion to rescind on the next agenda.
Okay.
And then you'll vote on that.
All right,
So
thank
it
you.
It will have both a second reading and a motion to rescind on the same agenda.
Fair enough. I know it's a little complicated. I just wanted to let the public record show it. All right, so with that, I will ask for any changes to this agenda or any additions we'd like to add.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
there are two items that I would make announcements about, but publishing the agenda, we've gotten some more information regarding the community center assessment and the intelligent intersections. So for expediency, if the council would entertain those under city manager's report, just a couple of brief updates that may or may not require action on behalf of the council.
Motion to accept.
All right, I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I got a second by Councilwoman Tremmel. Seeing no further discussions, I'll make the motion or call the vote.
No.
For that.
For that one thing?
Just to separate them, just because the city manager wanted that specifically.
Add them to the agenda.
Correct.
Not on the
And if there's more, we'll keep going. Yep. So this is just for the city manager. All right, ayes have it. All right, any other additions to the agenda?
Yeah, I would like to add nomination of an LPA applicant, Brianna Updegrove, as well as I'd like to pull consent item 3.
Okay.
3, oh, this is the previous one. Yeah, 3A, thank you.
3A, okay. Okay. All right, any other changes? All right, seeing none, I got a motion in a second. Councilman Bagby, we'll call the vote for the updated agenda. All right, ayes have it, so moved, and we will move forward. Okay, proclamations 1A, House briefing. Captain Folger? Oh, yeah, I was
I
like,
believe it will be Chief Beige from
Yeah.
the city of Fort Walton Beach, even though the agenda said Captain Fulgham. We welcome you, Chief Beige. You do have to push the button.
Hopefully you don't tell the city of Fort Walton Beach I'm cheating on them by showing up at a different council meeting. I'd like to start off by saying that was a very impressive presentation, Mayor. I was fascinated by the amount of stuff that you have accomplished and what not just you, but the whole city of Destin has accomplished and your vision going forward. And I can see now why I got the short end of the straw and had to present after you, because I think it's going to be very hard to present to the level that you presented at. So to start off, I'm Chief Robert Beige from the city of Fort Walton Beach, and I'm here on behalf of the Okaloosa County Health Improvement Plan. And we have some other members back there, Emily Pickens, Melissa Gaza, Brittany Orr, and Beth Smith, who is the director of the Okaloosa Health Department. 22 organizations had come together after the Housing Summit back in May that I think some of you may have been at to explore different options to bring sustainable housing to the Okaloosa County area. One of the items that were brought up is a community land trust. And some of you may want to ask, why does a police chief want to speak about a community land trust? So that's probably a fairly good question. And I can tell you housing sustainability directly ties to neighborhood safety and our ability to recruit and retain a productive workforce, not just within public safety, but all essential employees that work in our communities. So one of the options that was explored at the Housing Summit was a community land trust. And the way a community land trust works is a nonprofit buys the land that the structure sits on. And the structure can either be rehabbed or it can be built depending on the logistics of the site. But by having the nonprofit own the land, it greatly reduces the cost of ownership. At the Housing Summit, I was not 100% sold on community land trust. I sat in the back of the room and made a few jokes as the presentations were going on, was playing on my phone like some of you may be doing here tonight. But through the course of the time, and with 22 organizations that all came together, and one of the things that they told me that really sat into me was a community land trust is like an escalator. You live in your parents' house, you save up your money, you can rent an apartment, you were lucky enough to rent on Holiday Isles, which is a nice place to rent, and then you move into this gap between true home ownership and renting. The community land trust fills that gap right there. By not having to buy the land, you can greatly reduce the cost of ownership. And it allows you then to become a homeowner, participate in civic engagement, become a productive member of a community, and bring long-term residents that may not have been able to afford sustainable housing within the community that they work. Community land trusts are a very small portion of the housing market. Councilman Smith, your brother asked at the City of Fort Walton Beach housing market and council meeting, and he didn't ask it, he made a statement about it. This does not compete with the private market. A private market still has the opportunity to buy the land just like the nonprofit will buy the land. So this does not affect the private market. This is not an ask for government handouts or a big federally subsidized program. This is run at a very small community level. A nonprofit that has been vetted by the Okaloosa County Health Improvement Plan is the Northwest Florida Land Trust. They started in Pensacola, and they've been making their way east. They have projects in Santa Rosa County, and we would just like to offer up, we're going to each municipality, and then we'll present to the county that one, if you have a community land trust, or if you have a local housing plan, that you add a community land trust as an option in that local housing plan. Two, that you would be supportive of community land trusts coming to Okaloosa County if you're asked by the Board of County Commissioners. And three, if Northwest Florida Community Land Trust comes to your city, at least you know that they're coming with some vetting from the 22 organizations that sat as part of OCHIP. Northwest Florida Community Land Trust would not have exclusive rights to Okaloosa County. You could have one community land trust, or you could have 15 community land trusts. We just look at this time that Northwest Florida Community Land Trust is the best option to start this one strategy that may help mitigate a problem that every community has in affordable and sustainable housing. So that's my formal presentation, Mayor. I wanted to keep it short, and if you have any questions or comments, I'm glad to take them at this time.
Thank you for being here, and I've listened in on several of the conversations and the Zoom calls, so thank you for just continuing your dedication, and everyone here, thank you guys for continuing this on and making a summit not just an event, but something that we're actually working on afterwards to do something with it. So any other discussion, comments, concerns? Seeing none, thank you.
All right.
We have a trust for public land. Public trust for land. What do we have?
There's a trust for public land.
So do you need anything from us to actually help you from when you leave here?
I mean, a motion of support would be great. This differs a little bit from the state land trust where this is done by a nonprofit. So the nonprofit would come in either by, a lot of times in Escambia and Santa Rosa County, they're looking at distressed properties. So they'll come in and buy a distressed property and then rehab the distressed property through a three-way partnership between the nonprofit, which then would retain title of the land, a person that qualifies based on income, and then financial institutions that are specialized in community land trusts. So any support that we can get from the local city councils would greatly aid us when we go to the county commission, because at the county level, we're really trying to get this in their AHAG plan, in their local housing plan.
All right, so is that more of a, you need a resolution?
I mean, a resolution would be the gold standard. A motion of support would be great. Or if just individually, if you reached out to the county and told them you support it, that would also suffice.
Awesome.
We're letting each community decide what is the best route for them to go forward with. Niceville passed a resolution, At Fort Walton, I provided a presentation like this, and I'm bringing back a resolution to Fort Walton. And we're going to Crestview next week, and we'll do the same thing in Crestview. So we're trying to hit all the cities and then allow them to show their support.
So you could bring us back a resolution so we could be, as a team, showing our full
100%.
support?
I read your agenda, and I think going forward, I have to have a council person sponsor a resolution if it passes tonight. I would be
sponsor
glad
it.
to see if there
I'll
would be
sponsor the
somebody that would
resolution.
sponsor it.
I'll be glad to sponsor
Yes,
that
I will
resolution.
draft the resolution, and I will work with you directly to bring it
Perfect.
back in front of the city
I think it's a
council.
good thing for us. We need that here in Destin. I think it's a great way to help those that want to live here and work here. So thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for your time and support.
Councilman Bagby?
Yeah, are we still pursuing the orphan parcels, or are y'all part of the county's efforts to?
So those are separate issues. The orphan parcels work very similar to a land trust where the military will lease out the property. What the community land trust really does is build long-term home ownership, because they give you a 99-year lease in most of the configurations for the land trust. And you can actually inherit that through your family. If somebody else, if you were to pass away, you can pass it down. If you sell, you have to sell to somebody else that is income qualified, but generally the land trust then gives you another 99-year lease for that home ownership. So it's really to keep long-term people in the houses, and it works different from some other housing programs, because once you enter into a community land trust, that house will always remain affordable since the nonprofit owns the land. So other housing programs, whether it's first-time home buyers, some HUD programs, a lot of them are forgiveness loans. So after a certain period of time, those housing stocks can actually fall off the affordability block. The community land trust will always stay as an affordable property. So they're similar but different.
All right. Thank you so much for your
All right,
time.
thank you.
All right, with no other proclamations, announcements, recognitions, we will move on to the public comments. I will start with my right, y'all's left, and if anyone would wish to come up here and speak, this is your time to do so. Unless there is something on the ordinance for public hearings, and then we'll have an individual time to do those. So anything other than what we have on 4, 5A, B, or C? There you go. Well, I have. Name and address.
I wanted to make sure you saw me. Jason Belcher, 147 Cybert Avenue. Council members, Mr. Mayor, here tonight on behalf of the Destin History and Fishing Museum. I guess now I can consider myself a longtime board member. I'm its treasurer. I want to bring to your attention something that I think the council and the city can resolve fairly easily and probably bring to a conclusion. It would help us greatly. There are some artifacts that we have at the museum, namely the post office and the Primrose. And there's some question about who owns those assets today. They've been under the care of the museum for years now, and rightly so. The museum acts as the community trust for our heritage. Many new folks coming to the area first hear and first learn about our heritage and history through the museum. So it's important to have those artifacts and to have them well maintained, hence the problem. With a unknown ownership, and there are differing documents that have it documented in different ways. We're not certain that the city still owns either of these, probably so, maybe not, and an inventory of smaller items that we're trying to make now. But the museum has them under its care. What I would propose is that the city staff work with the museum. Our director, Vivian Williams, is back here tonight. Work with Vivian for some type of resolution that says, since these assets have been under the care of the museum for some time, and the museum is the de facto separate but symbiotic relational entity for the city for the preservation of these things, that ownership be given to the museum or recognized as owned by the museum, probably through some sort of memorandum. And I would then further say that we could capture in that memorandum some sort of deed restriction or ownership restriction, so that if any point in the future the museum ceased to exist, the city ownership would revert back to the city. What this does is it frees the museum up to be able to pursue grants and other funding sources to preserve these items that we can't now because, one, we don't technically own the assets. We only care for them. And so especially as it relates to the Primrose, I don't know, I have a special place for both the post office and the Primrose as a part of the Destin Forward program for the chamber. Did 7 work days and work crews on both of those projects when we last redid them. And Sarah Davis and I painted the entire bottom of the Primrose. So it's special to me in a lot of ways. It is beginning to sink under the cradles that it's under the blocking, and it's causing some significant damage to the underside of the vessel. We would like to see that repaired. We'd like to be able to petition for grants to be able to do that. This would help resolve that. I would also further ask the city to consider in years to come, possibly even putting a line item in the budget for the support of these and for the support of the museum. If we were to take them on as ownership, it'd be great if you could help us out with some funding as well, maybe $25,000 or so a year. But for now, just wanted to bring it to your attention. I apologize. Normally I'd stick around to be able to talk with you afterwards and in between, but I have to leave for an officers meeting at my church. But wanted to try to bring it to your attention, and I can answer any questions, and Vivian is here too to answer questions if you have any.
I'm sure we will get with you. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I moved to have the city manager work with staff on your board to bring this back and make it happen, put it under my name.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussions for that?
Question, it is a motion to have the city attorney look at the issue for us?
Would
Or
you
staff?
like to?
Or
Yeah, the motion was to have the city manager, and I can have the attorney too, but what did you say, to look at what?
at the issue on the
Yes,
the
sir.
proper way to
That's correct.
facilitate the transfer?
That's correct.
And I would just ask the city manager to make sure we do have a reverter clause in whatever you bring back before us. So if anything does happen, it comes back to the.
Great. Seeing no further questions?
Just a quick question. So are we making, are we claiming ownership of those properties?
Well, it sounds
Or
like
do we need to?
you're thinking we own them right now, but you're asking us to possibly just make it official that y'all are gonna
Yes,
take
sir. I
ownership
think-
with a deed of restriction, that we get it back if something ever happens.
Well, if possession is 9/10 of the law, the museum owns them. But I do believe that probably even preceding the formation of the city itself, I do believe that there's probably a stronger case to be made that these are still city-owned assets.
Okay.
But in any case, I think this needs to be clarified for the sake of the artifacts themselves.
And the grants.
And, yes, and Larry, may I suggest that probably make the most sense is that let us try to complete some type of inventory to the best of our knowledge of what we think we have, where there's questionable ownership that may still be the city's, including these 2 large artifacts, and then have Vivian get with you all about possibly how we could formulate a plan to clean this up, some type of memorandum of understanding or something like that.
Yeah, I see nods from council, so that sounds like a good plan.
All right. Well, we do have a motion and a second on the floor.
And just one other comment, it is a little cloudy on who owns what, but, and that's why I included Ms. Kopp, is quit claim the easiest way to do it? What is the easiest way? There are certain state laws that dictate how we shall transfer ownership of city property if we owned it.
I think Kyle Bauman already talked to the museum about this, actually. I wasn't a part of the conversation, but I'm pretty sure he advised them that we could address whether the city owns it or not and disclaim our interest if we have one. Certainly, if we have an interest, we can retain a reverter if that's what the council wants to do. But if we have already, and I haven't reviewed the history, but if we have already conveyed it and given it to the museum, then we're not going to be able to say the museum owns it now. They have to determine what happened after we gave them possession. But if we kept it, then yes, we can do the reverter. So we'll look at it, but I do believe that our Special Projects Council has had conversations with the museum.
Awesome. With that, I'll call the vote. All right, I'm assuming that's an all yes. So moved.
Mr. Mayor, can I bother y'all for 20 more seconds?
Sure.
Just to remind everybody that May, I believe it's, what date in May?
The first Saturday in May.
First Saturday in May is the 100th anniversary of the Primrose. So if some way we can move heaven and earth to get some of the repairs done before then, that'd be great. I do think we're planning a little bit of a celebration of some type. I don't think we're going to put a birthday hat on it like we did the post office last year, but ye of little faith, thank you. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Jason. All right, anyone else here? Public comments? Yes, sir.
Shane Moody, President and CEO of the Destin Chamber of Commerce. I just want to say that's the first time Jason has ever outrun me anywhere, getting up here to this podium. Yeah, I know, he's still here. That's all right. He still has a vote on my board, too. He knows I love him. Yeah, he's past chairman. He's not my direct boss anymore. He still has a vote, but, you know, we all know how that stuff goes. Just a real quick thank you from me to all of you. Everybody up here tonight spoke to Destin Forward on Thursday last week. The partnership, Destin Forward and City of Destin Day, has always been good. Larry even told a joke about pulling the lever in a voting booth, and he and I are the only two who got it. The rest of them were like, what's he talking about? So Larry called me out on my age. But the department heads all met with them. Recreation toured them. Michael Burgess toured them. And everything. But I'm going to give the biggest shout out to Tamara, because she said she was in the class last year. She said, this class has to change. And I said, well, tell me what you want to do. And she said, do I have free reign? And all of you who know me well are going to be shocked when I said, yes, you have free reign. And so she set the whole day up, and we've already decided to make some adjustments in it, some time stretch and things like that. So we look forward to that. But again, I want to thank everybody and the partnership that we have with the city, because that doesn't happen without our relationship that we have. We got two of you sitting up here who have been through the program. So, you know, and Jim Wood is sitting back there. He went through it, and we got him elected. And you know, all those good things.
What are you trying to say? Is that a pathway?
Hey, I'm just saying, I mean, Brian Kroger was in the class when it started this year, and now he's just been appointed special assistant to Donald Trump. That's what Destin Forward can do for you. And also, I know that e-bikes and scooters are on the agenda tonight. We don't really have a position on that. You know this because everybody's telling you. I almost hit one every single day. Going against traffic. They're on the sidewalks. They don't obey the crosswalk signs. They don't. There's going to be some bad stuff happen if we don't get these things under control. And I know Captain Fulgham's got some stuff he's going to share with you. And I just hope that you guys go in the right direction with that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, anyone else here with public comments? Yes, sir.
Captain Gary Jarvis, 804 Marsh Street. One official business, another public announcement. On Friday, March 7th at 10 a.m. at the Community Center, we're going to have our second annual Destin Fishing Hall of Fame inductees award ceremony. We have 4 folks that are going to be inducted. They will be named here publicly probably in the next few days, and then but we'd like to extend an invitation to mayor and council members to attend that if you would. It's something that our sheriff Eric Alden started probably about 30 years too late, but we're slowly recognizing the fishing heritage, the men and women that were all part of what made Destin the luckiest fishing village in the world. And the second thing is, and I've mentioned this on the public record before, and I know we have our visioning session coming up, but I think during that visioning session and in the, not to say you don't have enough on your plate as it is after that presentation from the mayor today, but I think it's really time for our community to have a charter review. I don't think there's ever been one since we've become a city, and I think that that's something that will take time, but I think that's something that needs to be done. I just want to put that on the public record. And I'll be back up during the public comment of the livery vessel.
Fair enough. I'm assuming that's what everyone's waiting for, too. Anything else not ordinance related to public hearings? Anyone else have shameless plugs they would like to add? All right, seeing none, we will call the public comments closed, and I will, let's go with 3A. Councilman Schmidt, would you like to start us off for what you pulled?
Sure. I pulled 3A off, which is the TDC's expenditure plan for promotion of tourism. I had a meeting today with our staff. A couple of questions I asked. I'll first start, Mr. City Manager, did you guys get any answer first on the bank account money that we have with TDC?
Yes, sir. It's a little foggy. Their numbers show about $5 million. However, our numbers show about $200,000, that there's a large percentage of that money that's been committed for certain projects that is still in the bank, but it's certainly not at our disposal to spend somewhere else. So our numbers show that it's about 200 and some $1,000. Is that right, Ms. Crispin? Yeah, somewhere around that number.
So when the bank tells you that you have $2 million in your
example-
bank account, are you going to argue with them?
Yes,
Or what? I
Kevin,
don't-
Kevin,
That sounds like a pretty good victory right there.
Crystal?
yeah, for example, they did not include the $750,000.
Okay.
For the last 2 years, so there's a $1.5 million discrepancy right there. In addition to that, we have about just over $3 million in current obligations and outstanding award balances to complete the Tarpon Crystal Beach project, as well as this year's
Can you pause on
loan
that 1 second,
payments.
please?
Sure.
Obligations that we have to pay back for the loan, right?
That's correct. We're
Right.
using their 12.5% money
Right.
to us to pay that loan.
But
Otherwise,
who
it'll
says
come
that the
out of
money has to come out of the bank for those obligations?
We could take it out of our general fund, out of the ad valorem, if you'd like to.
So
use
if
ad
the
valorem.
balance is $3.5 million, that's the balance.
No, those are awards that we are expending right now. These are the active awards that we're working on.
But the obligation is that we have to pay back every year to the TDC a certain dollar amount
That is one of them.
for the loans, right?
That is one of them.
How we pay that is whose decision?
It was decided 2 years ago when we took that $7 million loan that we would use this 12.5% money to pay it back at a rate of
Correct.
$750,000 a year.
So for example, y'all staff is wanting to allocate whatever it is, $750,000
For 2026.
for 2026, right? Because you're projecting to use that every year for, I think it was about 10 years or so.
That's correct.
So that's $750,000 a year for 10 years. That will pay back the loan, the obligations?
That's correct.
So then why are you wanting to use the $3.5 million that's in the bank then? That's separate from the $750,000.
No, that's this year's payment that we have to make. That's not the 2026
And
payment.
then next year, we'll get approximately $2 million hopefully from TDC for our 12.5%. And if history repeats itself, y'all will recommend 700 and something thousand to go towards the loan. And then approximately $500,000 will go in the bank again. So again, it sounds like you are allocating money in the bank towards the loan repayment. That's what it sounds like to me.
No, I'm just,
No?
I'm just making a correction that there's not $4 million. I'm talking about this year, FY '25. I'm not talking about 2026. The data that was sent out by Charlotte Dunworthy and the TDC showing the balances of unspent money had mistakes in it. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
It had about $5
So-
million in mistakes in it.
Will we get an actual number at that March 10th meeting by then, do you think?
That's when they are, the meeting to
Okay.
hold place where we would get those, capture those
mean-
numbers. But we did reach out, and that was the information we got back, but when we were comparing
Sure.
it to what had been committed, obligated, and
Right.
otherwise.
It's confusing, right?
Yeah.
I get it, but I think that's important to get a lot of better clarity. That's one item, but at the same time, we get to allocate approximately $2 million this year towards projects. And it's not? Well, before I continue, why don't you
Yeah,
correct me?
Councilman Bagley.
Sure, I'll be glad to, because I.
Just correct me on that one point right now. if you-
Okay, so the allocation this year is 1.996987, and now that $1,996,000, we will pay $750,000 because we are
Loan.
contractually obligated
Right.
to pay that back on the loan, and we will pay for the lifeguard, whatever beach, whatever we call that line item, the 606.
boardwalk operations.
Yeah, 665,000. So we're going to pay $1.315 million that has already gone out the door of that 1.9. So the remainder of it goes into the bank. And
Okay.
I'm hoping at the visioning session, we either, because we have some more bank money, we can have a conversation on. But remember, the agreement it has to be tourism related.
Right.
So, I mean, there are requirements. It's not like we can just go
Well, that's not what I was saying.
spend this on my
so
water
thank you.
project at Four Prong Lake.
Right, no,
Yeah.
you're right, and that's basically what I said. I apologize if you misheard me, but out of $1.9 million, that's our bucket this year to do something with. And yes, contractually, we have to do the loan repayment. That's the only item. Contractually. After that, for the past 3 to 4 years, it's been the same thing, boardwalk and beach operations. $665,000. Of that, if you looked at it, $450,000 is for regular salaries, taxes, and benefits for boardwalk and beach operations. So year after year, we get this same thing, and we approve it with no further discussion. Me personally, I think we should be using the TDC funds for the projects to better serve the citizens of Destin in projects that are tourism related that are approved by the TDC. I don't disagree with you. Paying for $500,000 of staff salary to go keep them clean, to go pick up trash, to go clean the bathrooms, which they all do a very good job at, not disagreeing with that. I think we should be taking a lot better look at how we're going to use these funds on projects, which we're going to be talking about one here later tonight that could be is a TDC approved project. There's multiple projects over the years that we need money for. And then we have $500,000 that's just going to go sit in a bank. $500,000 that we could use for some TDC projects that will not only benefit the tourists, but will also benefit our citizens. So my ask is I'm going to make a motion to have staff bring this back after sharpening their pencils and do something that's going to be more beneficial for the city of Destin and resubmit this to us.
All right, I have a motion on the table. Do I hear a second? All right, I got a second by Councilman Braden. Councilman Bagby, you're up.
Yeah, I think before we go down that road, there's two things that need to be done. Number one, Crystal, probably at the visioning session or at the next meeting, you give us a breakdown of that $665,000 because I think it goes to pay the salaries of our staff that do the trash and do the bathrooms is not in it, yeah, but there are more things in there. That's what I'm saying. And so, and then B, I think we have some obligations for the two parks, beachfront parks, which we are contractually obligated to pay for, which I believe the staff is looking at this bucket to pay for those, because we have to pay for both Crystal Shores and the other beachfront park, which we will actually start, as the mayor told us, this year. Hopefully we'll start both of them this year, but we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So I think and if I'm misspeaking, Mr. City Manager, you can tell me, but I think in the staff's mind, they have a lot of this money already obligated. I'm not sure that they're prepared to speak to that specific point tonight. If they are, knock yourself out, but you can do it at the visioning session or you can do it at the next meeting. So I just don't want to get the cart before the horse. I hear what you're saying. Hey, I see $3 million, and hey, I got a plan. I can spend $3 million. I think the staff may not have communicated that they also have a plan for that $3 million, some of which we are obligated to pay. So I'll turn it over to
It's a good point, but we have an agenda item. We have a staff preparation. There's a spreadsheet right here that details the line items of the $600 and something thousand. And if the staff has a plan for a $3 million TDC bank account, I think over the years, it'd be nice to have that be told to the city council who makes the decisions on what that $3 million is going to go to.
No,
Or that
can
we're going to request
May I make
the
a
county to tell us what it's
clarification?
going to go to.
May I
That would
make
be
a
my only
clarification?
comment.
Crystal?
The $3 million is already awarded. These are awards that were signed by the mayor and city manager in prior years. This is not a $3 million bank account. These are awards that are active, that are we already have the agreement signed.
That's, I think, some clarity that needs to be shined on that, because I think we're a little bit confused on that. I don't agree with you. And until you can provide that in more detail to the council, which I think we will get, Larry said, but call it 3 million, call it 200,000, regardless, y'all are still allocating over $500,000 towards something that y'all want to do in next year, 2 years, 3 years from now.
I think
That's my
maybe-
only thing.
I think maybe for clarity, it's not what we want to do. I mean, we do what council tells us to do.
So what did you tell them to do? Because I didn't tell them to put $500,000 into a bank account and use it 2 years from now for a Tarpon Beach project.
I think we did tell them to put $3 million toward the Tarpon Beach project, didn't we?
Well, this year we have $1.9 million to allocate. Staff is bringing $1.3 million of a plan to use.
I think
So staff is saying put $600,000 in a bank account and use it for later. That's what that tells me. But
I say let's get staff a chance and Larry to bring this back to you guys. Councilman Destin, you got anything just for the sake of moving this forward? Do you have anything else to add?
I did. We, as Mr. Bagby said, we have obligations on the construction of those parks, the two Tarpon and the other Crystal Beach. I have no problem with staff clarifying where they have the money allocated as far as putting it in a bank account. That's an interest-bearing bank account, is it, or not?
No, we receive the money on a cash reimbursement basis. I have to show them proof of a canceled check at the bank in order to receive the grant funding. So it's
Okay.
not going in a city
So we're not
bank
making
account.
interest
They don't give
versus-
advances.
It's
Okay,
the
but-
county's money
Yes.
that's
All right.
holding it for us.
At the point of just getting more clarification, I don't have a problem with that, but I think the motion is to tell them to bring us their ideas on how to more beneficially spend the money, and I'm not even sure what the definition of that is, or that their ideas are ideas that I would agree with. I certainly like to listen to their ideas, but beneficially is kind of, I'm not sure what we're asking them to do.
My ask, I guess, to update the motion would be to have them bring back a plan of the $1.9 million that we get to use in this fiscal year on this request to the TDC, and not just 1.3.
A more detailed plan, because a good portion of it is already obligated for those debts we've put ourselves contractually into. If we're asking them to tell us a more detailed plan for what's left over, they can do that. I like to see it at the visioning plan.
Okay.
I'm talking about the 600,000
Okay,
that's left out there.
that's right.
A
And
detailed plan for when the
visioning is Friday. Does that give them enough time to do that?
Yeah, to be honest, Bagby hit it squarely on the head. We still have, according to the second amended interlocal agreement to build Crystal and Tarpon beaches, the city still has an obligation of about approximately $2.1 million.
It does. I understand that part.
We have currently an award from them, an award balance of $1.6 million towards that obligation. So this remaining $581,000 would help us round it up to that $2.1 million that we owe in total to meet that obligation.
And of course,
But we're waiting for the county to do a third, or I guess it would be a second amendment to that interlocal agreement when they receive the solicitation results back for the Tarpon Beach construction. So that should happen this summer.
yeah, and of course, if TDC collections do what they did in Walton County and go down by 38%, then we'll have to take some money out of general fund to make up the difference, won't we?
All right, I got a motion on the table. I think we've beaten this. We got everyone's perspectives. I'm going to call the vote. The motion is to bring it back?
No, we can bring it whenever they want to bring it back, but bring it back with a more detailed plan of what the $1.9 million is going to be actually be spent on.
Bring back the plan.
Semantics.
Bring back every line item you got on this.
Well, in the next meeting, and that's up to staff, but I imagine the next meeting they can do it.
Staff, when do you think you could have that?
We can have it by the next meeting for sure. And just for clarity, that's the 1.996,987 that's in the item 3A is a more detailed
Right.
plan for those funds.
My wish is to understand what you're going to do, what
Right.
you're recommended to do with
Okay.
the full amount.
Okay, very well.
And that's at the next regularly scheduled meeting or the next meeting? What exactly next meeting?
The next regularly
Regular-
scheduled
yeah,
meeting,
next-
March 3rd.
All right, call the vote. All right, ayes have it, 6-0. Moving forward with the rest of the consent agenda, do I have a motion for 3B and C?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, Councilwomen's got the motion in the second, and I will call the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved. City Manager, Mr. Larry Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. The item 4A is a request for you to consider a legislative sponsor policy. At the last meeting, you asked the attorney and city manager to prepare a policy resolution to address this idea of having a legislative sponsor. So what's before you is that resolution, and in a nutshell, any ordinance or resolution for council consideration will have to have a legislative sponsor.
All right, thank you for that. With that, do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
All right, Councilman Destin moves to approve without his button, so does Councilman Bagby. See no further Councilman Destin, do you have something to discuss?
I was going to point out that we made it a resolution rather than an ordinance because a resolution can be changed at the very next meeting, and if we have any problems with it, then we can tweak it and make it different. But I think it's important that the folks who elect us understand the policies that we're putting forward and who's putting them on the table.
All right, rightfully so. All right, seeing no further discussions, I'll call the vote for 4A, Resolution 2503. All right, ayes have it, so moved, unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. The next item is 4B, is in regard to the contract with MGA Constructors for the construction of the Morgan Sports Center lighting project. This contract is for $847,239 with the option of a $50,700 alternate, which provides for some technology to operate the lights, control them, monitor them. It'll allow the manufacturer to also monitor their performance and a number of things that Lisa and her staff may be able to address. But the overall cost, if you include the alternate, is $897,939. We did confirm that there's not an annual fee for that application. However, we're still waiting to get understanding whether there is a cost to upgrade on an annual basis, so we have not got that information back yet.
All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that the city council approve the contract and change order with MGA Construction for RFB 24-14-REC for Morgan Sports Center field
Second.
lighting, and authorize the city manager to execute both documents and issue the notice to proceed.
I'll second that.
All right, I got a motion and second by Councilwoman Aber. Any further discussions? Councilman Braden.
Thank you. Is adding the $70,000, basically remote control bill, turn the lights on and off, is that in the motion? We're approving that too?
That's the change order.
I was told 70, is it 50 or even $50,000? I don't think it's worth spending $50,000 of taxpayers' money so they can turn the lights on and off with a phone. No way. Yeah, 50,700. So with that, I can't support this motion with that.
All right. Right, note taken. All right, any other discussions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All right, ayes have it, 6-1, 5-1, 5-1, thank you. All right, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next item is item 4C, which is regard to the pickleball court that We've went out on multiple occasions for bids. We received one response this time. Again, at $706,485, it's substantially higher than what we have budgeted for that facility. We have had some interest in post-award or post-bid opening. We actually have belief that if we reject this bid and go back out, we will get some more interest. We are working with some folks that is in the pickleball world and realm that is willing to take our bid documents and get them into some hands of folks that they know that do these things. So we believe we will have some better response next time. We also are looking at perhaps the idea of my term reverse engineering this project. That seems the restroom component is the driving of the cost higher, that we may need to look at establishing a facility with appropriate restrooms and maybe have to scale down the court size or number of courts initially, but that it's easier to procure grant fundings for a expansion of a park as opposed to the development of one which would incur the cost of the restroom. So we may look at it from a couple of different angles to try to get some more favorable bids in. But our recommendation tonight is to reject the one bid that was received and go back out for bids with perhaps some changes to the documents to work more in our favor.
All right, thank you, Larry. And I'll just echo what he said on some of our local contacts and Tracy Clickscale and a few others that have been in here with their paddle boards before. They're aware, and they feel there's several local contractors in the region that have just done this in neighboring counties, and we should be able to get much closer to a reasonable ask. With that, I see what you guys are doing now. All right, Councilwoman Trammell, is that with the motion? Yes, I'll make the motion. Push the button.
I make the motion that the city council reject the bid from Biggs Construction Company for RFB 24-15-REC and that the RFB be re-advertised.
I second that.
All right, I got a motion and a second. Up first, Councilman Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Did we ever get the first bids the first time that it went out to bid, or did they never come back?
The first time it went to bid? Yes,
Yeah.
sir. We got several bids, and they were still extremely high.
They were extremely high.
Yes, sir. And those were rejected. We went back out again, and we got one bid. There was another one that was submitted, but it was not timely.
Was the first one, were any of those the local companies that y'all are referring to, or?
I don't believe so. I'd have to go back and look.
Somewhere out of Jacksonville and somewhere.
And then the current bid is to do a four-court system, is that, am I reading that correctly?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Yep.
Right. So, let's just say this wasn't budget, would staff be supporting this particular bid? Like, would we be okay with it?
I would think if we had anticipated the cost being somewhere closer here, certainly we would move forward with awarding.
I mean, I'm fine with rejecting going out to bid for the third time, but I'm also skeptical of going back out to bid to get a cheaper price, to have less courts, and then expanding in the future. I don't support that. For example, we just talked a minute ago about nearly $600,000 of some money. We could throw $300,000 towards this pickleball project and break ground after they sign this contract that we've been telling people for years that we're going to do pickleball. So, and that's just one example, but I can't support continuing to just kick this thing down the road. People have had two attempts now. I don't want to make it smaller, in my opinion, so that's my thought.
I agree. Councilman Destin.
Well, I tend to agree with Mr. Schmidt, so I take it for granted that he's making a substitute motion to reject all bids, but to not reduce the size. And if he is,
I think that was just a
second it.
comment.
That's fine. I mean,
Not that I want to put words in his mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my substitute motion.
All right, I'll second it.
All right, fair enough. I got a motion and a second for the substitute. Yep, I see no further discussions. We'll vote on the sub. Y'all keeping me on my toes. All right, ayes have it.
Thanks, Kevin.
Right, Mr. Jones.
Next item is regarding the Parks and Recreation fee schedule. We were instructed to take the Fort Walton Beach schedule of fees and apply those fees to Destin usage and compare what that looks like. In a nutshell, it would generate about $20,000 in additional funds if we utilize their fees, only because there are things that we do in the city of Destin that Fort Walton Beach does not do, like padded football and some of those other things that the cost fees are pretty high because of what it takes to put those programs together. Before you are the fees based on the Fort Walton Beach fees, then a comparison to the Destin fees with the Fort Walton Beach fees. You'll see one of those that have red lines red lines that show the things in Destin that are not in Fort Walton. But at the end, there is a 2-page document that would reflect the Fort Walton fees if the city of Destin were to adopt them and what those fees would look like.
All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion. Councilwoman Trammell?
I'll make the recommended motion to adopt the fees as presented in the attachment.
All right, I got a motion. Do I hear a second?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
If I may,
Yep.
and before we get a second, we would also like to add a statement that for nonprofits consideration that but to handle by contract at the council level as opposed to having a fee structure for those, a la the Destin High School, perhaps a Little League, some others that, the council may wish to have some consideration for outside of the fee schedule, that'd be by contract.
All right, noted. Thank you for that. All right, I still have a motion on the floor without a second. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, I got a second by Councilman Schmidt. First discussion up, Councilman Bagby. And then a whole bunch of others. And then also push your button in.
341 of the slides. And this is the thing that the reason we haven't been able to fix this in a while. So we all agree that we should underwrite our sports programs and our kids programs and stuff like that. The question is, we've been trying to recapture, particularly with Morgan's, because a lot of folks who aren't from here use Morgan's, and the community center, because there are groups that aren't necessarily in the city, and I appreciate the mayor's one community, but they're not paying the taxes to
Not
keep
yet,
up
they're not.
the community center, okay? But if you go to slide 341 or page 341 on the read-ahead packet, just for the sports complex and the community center, what we're projecting this year with the current, I believe the current, not the additional 20,000, is that we're going to bring in $250,341 total for, this is the sports complex, okay? And we're going to spend $3,381,865. So that's going to give us a deficit of $3,131,000. Now, part of that is we're making some upgrades, the lighting and other things that need to be done that shouldn't really count against this. But what we have talked about continuously is not making it pay for itself, but at least getting it closer to helping us so that we're not completely subsidizing, because, and so we're not there yet, because on the community center, we're expecting $202,666 in revenue and expenditures of 665 million for a deficit of about 1.6 million. Okay, 1.65 million. So that's just on the community center. So for the two of them, I think it totals 1.6 and 3.3, $5 million of subsidies for just these two. This isn't Buck Destin Park or any of the other parks or any of the other things that we're doing. So I'm not sure the fee schedule that is before us actually does what we have asked the staff in the past to do. I understand why we went through this, to show, well, Fort Walton Beach does this. Yeah, you know, if we want to keep the locals' prices comparable with Fort Walton Beach and charge the other folks that are not paying into our tax base that, more, then that's where I would prefer we go. But I can't support, subsidizing just those two facilities, not all the other facilities that we also support, writing off $5 million this year. So I just wanted to make it as nothing, like I said, if you want to charge the locals exactly what you charge, what Fort Walton Beach charges, and charge everybody else out the wazoo, I am more than happy to do that.
All right, Councilman Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me. A couple years ago, we started talking about the fee schedule. One of the main reasons to start talking about it was to charge the citizens less to go rent a pavilion at our park. And that was what started a lot of these discussions over the past couple of years, because I think the citizens were paying too much to do some of these things. And so I appreciate what staff has done. They did exactly what we asked them to do at the last meeting. I hear what you're saying. We're losing money at Morgan Sports Complex and the community center. But you're just picking away, though, at a large mountain that the goal of those complexes is not to generate a profit. I don't even think we will ever break even. It's not what it's for. And so we've been blessed to have sports tourism be a growth across the country, and Destin as a premier vacation destination, we reap the benefits from that as well, from all sports. And we will continue to do that. But at the same time, if those tourism sports things didn't show up here like they weren't 15 years ago, there would be no income really at those complexes. So, what we're getting, we're blessed to get, I think. I think it'll get better as we improve that complex, all of our complexes across the city. But I do know, I've spoken to residents, I've spoken to organizations, nonprofits. What is being presented to us tonight is going to be beneficial for not only the citizens, but also our customers that want to come rent facilities outside of the city. It's made it easier, more efficient, and more simple, more importantly for our staff, because there's no more variety, there's no more ranges. It's very simple for whoever answers the phone at the community center to tell the person on the other line exactly how much it's going to cost to go rent Buck Destin Park or the community center or whatever. So I think this is going to benefit everybody, our staff, citizens, and the visitors. So I definitely support it, and this is fantastic. So thank you.
All right, Councilman Destin.
The motion before us raises the fees by what percentage? In other words, we're not lowering the fees, we're raising them, correct, by some amount? How much more money are we going to generate?
I think, well, the reason it would generate more funds is because of those that are more costlier to put on that Fort Walton Beach does not have.
Right.
I think by and large, the fees are either neutral or probably down a little bit. There may be some that bumped up, but Lisa, I think she can probably confirm that, they went through the exercise of line item by line item, but I think that by and large, they are a little bit less than what ours are currently. Is that
Well,
a reasonable
I
statement?
don't want to interrupt you, but Leonard Destin Park is $65 per day to go rent the pavilion over there, from my understanding, versus what it used to be of nearly 150 or so.
So there are some reductions in
There
certain
are some
parts.
reductions, for sure.
Okay, and so this, I'm sorry, my computer's not bringing up the article. So this motion is to adopt the Fort Walton Beach model, or just the one that we had before?
The one that we have before us, which was using the Fort Walton Beach's model and then modified to only use what the city of Destin
Right.
offers.
Okay, that's the question I needed answered.
All right, any other questions, comments?
So my question to you, Lisa, you went through this and you know what it costs to upkeep, not that we're trying to make a profit, but upkeep some of the things that we're allowing folks to rent. Are we still able to manage the upkeep, the manning, and are we taking a ding to get prices, quote, down to a lower level?
With these fees, we will be up 20,000. I mean, with the revenue that we brought in 2024, so that there is going to be a little increase, but those increases are, sponsorships or, it levels out where there is an increase, but not so much. I don't know of anything that,
Yeah, I say not so much to the individual is kind of how I interpreted it.
can you think of anything that really is increased?
No, because, in terms of an increase, we'd probably have to go and look at exactly what would go up, but it balanced out in the end.
Ultimately, we're not losing money. We're able to make
No.
a little bit more money by equaling this across the board then. So this is, in your recommendation, you run the Parks and Rec. So are you good with how this has turned out and what you're presenting to us?
We're all good.
Okay, that's
We're
what I
all
want to
good, and
know.
we're
I want to
bringing in-
support something that we've done the right thing as well as for our residents too, so. Okay,
So the current
thank you.
fees, and if we went to with these, it was 479, and it would be 499. So that's 20,000.
Thank you, and thanks for all the work it took for your team to get all this done. So I know how much it was, so thank y'all.
Worked hard.
All right, with that, who's our second? I got a motion of.
I'll second.
Yeah, Councilmember. All right, seeing no further discussions, I'll call the vote. Yes. Who seconded it? Schmidt. No, but thank you for using your software. Yeah. All right, ayes have it, 5-1, so moved. All right, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the next item is regarding scooters, e-bike traffic regulations. You asked us at the last meeting to meet with the sheriff's office and bring you some information regarding scooters, e-bikes, bicycles, and the such. So Captain Fulgham had done a great job of bringing us some information that we've presented to you in your packet. You have from statutes, definitions, electric bike and personal assistive mobility devices regulation, bicycle regulations, electric bike regulations, motorcycle and mopeds, micro mobility devices, motorized scooters, miniature motorcycles requirements, bicycles, and other pedestrian vehicles chart. Whew. So there's a lot there. Bottom line, bicycles by statute are allowed on sidewalk. By statute, anywhere a bicycle go, a electric bike can go, a scooter can go, the little three-wheel scooty kind of things go. Pretty much anything that you can ride on can go. That's by statute. Statute also allows the city by ordinance to regulate what can be on a sidewalk. So you can preclude them from being on a sidewalk if you so choose, move them into the bike path or street. That's at your discretion. There's some statistics there as that From 2021 to 2024, there were no e-bikes or bicycle hit a pedestrian in the city. However, there were 50 incidents where a vehicle hit a bike. Of those, 70% of the bikes were on the sidewalk, with the majority flowing against the traffic, and 20% were hitting bike lanes, so I'm assuming the other 10% were hit in the roadway or intersection. An interesting fact that I asked Captain Fulham to confirm earlier, that just as a pedestrian has the right to that crosswalk, so does the bicyclist, so does the e-bike, or whoever happens to be on that sidewalk has the same right as a pedestrian as far as entering a crosswalk across an intersection. You know, obviously, they have a responsibility to be smart and, you know, don't jump out in front of the car because I'm in the crosswalk and I dare you to hit me, because you'll get hit and you're going to lose that battle. So a lot of information there, but again, the crux of it is wherever a bicycle is allowed, the scooters and the e-bikes are allowed as well. Captain, cover that well? Anything you might want to add?
Yes, sir. You covered it well, and I'd be glad to answer any questions. I don't know what to add other than what Mr. Jones said, is that if you're able to ride a bicycle there, you're able to ride an e-bike there unless the city decides to pass an ordinance otherwise.
All right. Councilwoman Trammell?
I was just going to make a motion that all these details be sent to the Public Works and Safety Committee and have them come back with recommendations as to whether or not we need to address an ordinance or not.
Second. All right, I got a second by Councilman Destin. Jim, don't blow the lid. And Councilman Schmidt, you're up next.
Sure, I have a few questions. One for Mr. Wood. Has this come to that committee before?
Yeah, come on up here. Yep,
Yeah,
yes, sir.
come on up.
I'll answer, yes, I was there.
Just for memory of kicking it back to the committee again, I'm just curious if you could give us an update as the chairman, right? of that
Yep,
committee?
Jim Wood, 3790 Mr. Way. I'm the chairman of the Public Safety and Public Works Committee. And yes, it has come to us for some discussions before. I've done a lot of research on this issue, talking with the sheriff's office, talking with city staff. I had seen a bunch of comments on nextdoor.com almost a year ago. People complaining about bikes being on the sidewalks. Well, the law says you can be there. You know, we built lots of our roadways without bike lanes because we built wider sidewalks. We made a conscious choice. So to kick everybody back to the street now is a little tough for me as the chairman. I know one of my members wants to take this up again, so I guess we're going to revisit it. I mean, most things are in the statute. If you want something different, you know, we can regulate. Question is, what do we want to do? And how much liability do you want to accept kicking back folks to the street when there's no bike lanes there? Unless we're going to put some pretty colored lines on the streets to simulate bike lanes.
I had a slide like that.
You did, I saw it. But it is going to come back to us. We're glad to take it up. So thank you, Ms. Trammell, for making that motion. We appreciate that.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Sure.
Probably.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Captain Fulgham, can you speak to the accident that happened the other day on Legion and the neighborhood entrance? Are you able to give details on that?
Yes, sir. Basically, you had a scooter that was operating on the sidewalk, and you had a truck that was making a left-hand turn into the area, and the scooter had the right-of-way. It had already entered into the crosswalk, and the truck struck him, didn't see him.
Okay.
Let's get rid of vehicles.
Right.
If I may add to your question.
Sure.
I've had a lot of issues with this point here. So if I'm coming out of my neighborhood, Harbor Breeze on Airport Road, so I pull up to my stop bar, I'm looking both ways. I'm used to walkers, joggers, normal bikes going 7 to 10 miles an hour, but the e-bike closes so much faster on the intersection now. One, there's too much greenery in a lot of places you can't see, so the vision triangle's blocked. By the time, you know, this is like a basketball play. Is it charging or blocking foul? So if I get there first in my car and I'm set there at the stop bar ready to turn, and I turn and an e-bike comes and hits me on my passenger side door, That's not my fault. I was there first, set, ready to go. But if I pull up and I'm coming to the entrance and here comes an e-bike I don't see, he's already committed and I hit him, now that's my fault.
Right.
But a lot of folks don't know who's at fault in each one of those cases.
Right.
And I'm afraid of that rule because I don't
Correct.
know when I'm at fault and when I'm not. And I don't want to get a ticket for something that
Right.
is not my fault.
So, a few things, and I'm excited for it to go back to you guys. And I would ask that when it does, Tamara and everybody else really publicizes that meeting to have the public as noticed as possible that item is going to be discussed, because I think there's a lot of public input on that would be very beneficial for that meeting. Two, a lot of the statistics from the past years, to me, aren't as big of a deal because this is becoming a newer problem. Is it a problem today? You know, we spoke today to staff. Okay, it might not be a problem today because we're not seeing all these accidents, but I think it will be a problem tomorrow. And so I think it's of dire need to do something. But then lastly, it is nerve-wracking to send all of them to the street. I agree. Not all of the people on these bikes or scooters are all adults and 30 plus years old, you know? Just as many are 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. And that's a whole other discussion. So we need to do something, and I think we are, and now it's going back to you guys. And I, for one, at this point, don't think we're just kicking it down the road again, because this is a very important topic, I believe, and action needs to be taken, even if it's putting lines on the sidewalk. And there's all these ideas that I think we need to get behind to be creative for. So thank you.
Well, we're looking forward to the discussion, so thank you.
We got
for
plenty
sending
up
it back
here,
to
so
us.
you might as well just hold.
Okay.
Councilman Bagby, Destin, then Trammell, then Abear.
Okay, so what the good captain told me was me wanting to put signs on the sidewalks or paths or whatever the heck we're calling them, saying no motorized vehicles isn't going to fly, so that's fine. One of the ideas I'd like for y'all to consider is put rumble strips probably 20 yards away. You know what I'm talking about? Not the rumble strips like we have the big ones for the cars, but rumble strips so that when I take my e-bike over, you know, I have to slow down a little bit. I don't know. They'd probably try to catch air, but because I have the same problem coming out of my neighborhood. You know, I look left, I look right, okay? I look left because that's the traffic. As I pull out, invariably, some kid going to work on their little scooter, motorized scooter, zips right in front. And I'm like, it's just a matter of time before I hit one. And it's like, now I know. I just pull in across the bar into the crosswalk. I'm already in the right of way. Okay, so
You're the blocking guard.
Yeah, I just block it, but no,
Thus proving that government's not the solution.
Yeah. Yeah, just think
You said it, I'm
outside the
glad.
box and, you know, rumble strips or something that says, slow the heck down.
And if I may, one more comment. Now, we talked about earlier, I think there was a comment about bikes going against traffic. Now, if you're on a sidewalk, there is no rule to go with traffic on that side of the road. Now, if you're on the roadway, there would be, but on a sidewalk, there's not. So you still got to look both ways multiple times. So that compounds the problem.
All right, Councilman Destin.
Yes, sir.
I just would reiterate, our problem seems to be speed and going against the flow of traffic. If we could figure out a way to address those two, because same thing as Jim, you know, coming against the flow, I've almost been run over twice. There was a youngster in Escambia County 2 days ago that was in a pretty serious accident on the e-bike doing the very same thing. And even Saturday Night Live had a skit on their 50th anniversary show about how dangerous it was to walk on the sidewalks in New York for the e-bikes. So it's a problem that's coming, and even New York is experiencing it. So if we could slow them down and convince them not to go against the flow of traffic, that would help.
I'll tell you this, to me, speed is one of the biggest issues. I mean, the state statute says 15 miles an hour on sidewalks or multipurpose paths. The new specifically constructed class 1, 2, and 3 e-bikes have speedometers on them. They have horns to warn somebody you're coming. But if you try to do speed enforcement on an e-bike, the radar fan is like this. Here's the bike. Here's a car over here. You're going to get the car, not the e-bike. So it's almost impossible.
Laser works a lot better and more accurate.
Councilwoman Tram.
Gotcha. Yes, ma'am.
You know, all the things we're talking about here, going the wrong way down the sidewalk, those can be ordinances that said, you know, we want you to go a certain way down the sidewalk. Those are the kinds of things I'd like them to bring back. And also, I know years ago we used to do a bike safety. Public Works and Safety did a bike safety for the kids. Why don't we do e-bike safety or motorized scooter safety or something like that to let our kids know? I have a kid in my neighborhood that rides a go-kart. I can never see him because he's way down there, you know, and he's 8. So it's crazy.
He's driving on the road or the sidewalk?
Yes,
Both,
because
probably.
there are no sidewalks in my neighborhood, so that, you know, they has to be on the road, you know? I mean, that's what you get.
Gotcha.
We're on the sidewalk list, so hopefully if we get a sidewalk in the next 5 years, he can be there.
We're glad you're
But
going to
those
get
are
one.
the- Those are the kinds of things I think that Public Works and Safety Committee can bring back to us after they look at all of the complaints that you guys have seen and we've seen, and come up with some way that we can legislate that through ordinance or something.
All right, looking forward to it.
All
Any
right.
other questions?
The board is clear.
Thank you.
Do you have anything
Cool.
else?
Yeah, the one thing I was going to say is on what Sandy had to say, but also the 30 mile an hour, these e-bikes are a lot faster than they have been. And that's the problem, is because they're so much faster. They're coming down the sidewalk and you're walking your dog and all of a sudden that e-bike is cutting out into the street because it's just chaotic. So I'm
Agreed.
glad you're going to look at it. Hopefully
right.
we can figure something out. Thank you,
No,
Jim.
Thank you.
Ms. Abear, just a point of clarification on the e-bikes. By state statute, if they do over 28 miles an hour, they're not an e-bike. If they do over 28 miles an hour, they'll be a moped.
And if I could add something, Councilor Abear, it's Michael over here. If you read the definitions for e-bikes, it requires the bicyclist to pedal. A lot of the devices available now do not require you to pedal. Like they have just a thumb throttle. You press the thumb throttle and you're off on your way. In addition, I think the battery size is limited to 750 watts. Go on Amazon and see what's available out there now. They far exceed that, so I don't even think they meet the Florida state statute definition of an e-bike anymore.
No, and that's what I was saying earlier, is they would not be e-bikes, they would be mopeds at that point. And if, you know, and I'll certainly work with Mr. Wood and his group, you know, if we can come up with a way that the city can pass an ordinance where they can be easily identified from someone, you know, say they have to have something on their e-bike designating it as an e-bike and something on their moped designated as a moped that you can see from a distance. There's a lot of options that we can work with, and I'll be more than happy to work with Mr. Wood's group to see that.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right. My final comment before I call the vote is I don't think e-bikes are the evil. I think the evil is that we don't have the infrastructure designed in place for them. We can all agree that Destin's #1 issue is traffic, and the people on the bikes are not on cars, which would be one step closer to relieving us all not going in the same form of vehicle to the same places at the same time because we all have the same 9-to-5 jobs. So as always, there's a give and pull to all this, but I would just like the committee and everyone that comes to this discussion to not see e-bikes, at least the defined regulatory version of these e-bikes, as a thing that we must overcome. It's something that we must adapt and design around. And with that, I will call the vote to send this to Public Works and Safety Committee. All right, ayes have it, so moved. Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Items 4F, G, and H are your TDC monthly report, operations financial report, and capital project status for your information. And if you have no questions on any of those, we will move on.
Seeing none.
Seeing none. So the two items I asked you to add to the agenda, one was the community center update. We were asked to procure quotes from 3 firms for a building envelope assessment for the community center. When we published the agenda, we had none, but we have received one, which is for $14,100, which is certainly within my city manager spending authority, but absent bringing it to council and letting you know where we are in that, I would hesitate to do that. So what we'd like to do with your consent is to simply get the other 2 quotes that we're expecting any day and move forward with the most favorable one. So just to give you an update on that one. And absent any further direction, that's what we'll do. The other is the regarding the intelligent intersection workshop. We did get a number back from Baskerville Donovan for $15,000 just to hold the workshop, which we think is quite costly. There will be a presentation, I believe, Thursday at the TPO by a group that does these systems, so we're going to try to reach out to them and see if we could get them to put us on a workshop and not go to this expense. But unless you want to approve us to move forward at a $15,000 clip, we won't. And I think, like I said, I think that was somewhat excessive. And it's simply because Baskerville Donovan does not have that expertise, and they've been bringing in others to do it. But we wanted to bring you that update. But we will reach out to the folks that will be at the TPO on this week and see if we can line something up with them.
All right, so with that, are you looking for a motion for either one for direction?
I don't think so. I think we're good either way.
Okay.
I mean, unless there's,
Any discussion?
Other direction. I
All
think
right,
we're good.
seeing none? All right, yep. All right, announcements.
Congressman?
Oh, no, announcements. Oh, anything else? I mean, any further announcements?
I only have 2 tonight. The first is last fall, you'll remember the local Rotarians came before you and requested permission to raise funds and install the PRTs, the personal rescue tubes. And the council unanimously approved for them to do that. So a huge shout out to them this last Saturday. They met out at the beach when it was drizzly and a little bit chilly, and they did a fantastic job and installed 8 of those at different beach accesses. So thank you very much to the Rotary Club as well as to the council for approving that. While we hope they're never needed, they're there in case they are, so that's great. And then also, it's already been said a couple of times, but we do have our visioning session this Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., and it'll be held right here in the annex. And of course, that's open to anyone that can make it. We'll have some of our partners share a little bit about their vision of this coming year, our city manager, HR, and others. And of course, we need our council perspective on where we as a city are going to be going. So we hope there's a nice turnout for that on Friday. That's it.
And I messed up, and it's council
Okay,
at City
yes.
of Destin,
Yeah,
not the
all right,
City
so
of
I
Destin.
told Mayor Wagner, he did a phenomenal job with his State of the City address, but he encouraged everyone to email the wrong email address.
Oh,
So
no. Hey, it's called a good politician move.
I was gonna let him be more suave as he corrected it, but thank you. So yeah, it's council@cityofdestin.com.
Awesome, thank you for that.
Thanks.
Yep. All right, public hearings. Ms. Kimberly Kopp.
So the first item is not actually an ordinance, but it is a public workshop concerning the adoption of the City of Destin's new mobility fees based on the mobility fee study. And the purpose of this public workshop is to demonstrate the extraordinary circumstances that exist in order to justify the fee increases. And I believe the consultant is here.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council. Can you all see my screen all right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Let me make it full screen for you. So my name's Lauren Witt. It's great to see you all again. I'm with my coworker, Alan Steinbeck, who's been here the last few times. So we're here to just continue the discussion about the mobility fee study and fee schedule from November, I believe, was when we were here last. So first, just quickly to go over what we're going to talk about, the schedule for the study with some important milestones, the extraordinary circumstances that require the need for the increase, as well as the workshops, policy discussion, discounts, and then a few examples on fee calculations as a follow-up from last time. So first, the schedule. So the Florida statutes require that the mobility fee study with the fee maximums is approved within 1 year from the study being initiated. So the study was initiated in June 27th of last year, completed on November 18th. Tonight is our first public workshop. There's one more required public workshop to meet the statutory requirements, and then the ordinance approving the fee study and fee maximums must be approved by a 2/3 vote, like I said, within 1 year, so June 27th of this year. Those any fees that become effective must happen at least 90 days after adoption. So some important notes about this process. While I went over the 12-month time limit, there's no time limit for fee discounts based on city policy decisions. So the fee maximums and the study that generated those fees must be adopted, but you can continue to discuss fee discounts, and you don't have to implement those fees within that year, which is the second point, that it has to be at least 90 days from adoption of the ordinance to the effective date of the fees, but that can extend beyond 90 days. There's also a few processes that must take place before the fees can be put into place, which are the comprehensive plan and LDC amendments. So currently there's an existing transportation impact fee, so the mobility fee will replace that transportation impact fee. So the extraordinary circumstances, and this is what requires the fees to be increased above and beyond the phase-in limits that are in the statutes, and also why 2 workshops are required, so that the public is notified and educated on that, and of course given the opportunity to come and speak to you all about those fee increases as well. So as you all know, there's been no impact fee increases in 16 years since 2008. Between that time, a few things have happened. Price increases or impacts related to COVID-19 played a big role between March 2020 and November of 2023. Material prices surged by 32%. Also, between 2008 and now, there's been sustained disruption in the supply chains for construction, which have led to significant increases in construction prices. So that's another big reason why these fees need to be raised to the level that they were recommended. So moving on to the policy discussion. So in November, when we last talked to you all, we came away with 2 primary categories that you all were looking to discount. The first being long-term single-family dwellings, and the second being community serving uses that support the long-term residents of Destin. These categories for discounts are supported through multiple policies that are already in your comprehensive plan that could call for the protection of these established residential areas of the city. So I won't read through all these policies, but on the right side of this slide, these are just 7 policies in your comprehensive plan that call out protecting these areas. So moving on to the discounted uses, we split up the comprehensive list of uses that you all were provided into a discounted uses list and then uses recommended for maximum fees. So as I said before, long-term single-family dwellings, as well as those supportive uses such as shopping centers, supermarkets, banks, auto parts, restaurants, offices, hospitals, nursing homes, churches, schools, and daycares are what we're recommending for those discounted uses that support the long-term residences. And then the other categories outside of that list would be recommended for maximum fees, including the short-term rentals, multifamily housing, mobile home parks, hotels, automobile sales, convenience stores, gas stations, golf courses, marinas, industrial, and warehousing. So the discounted long-term residential uses. So this table is for long-term single-family dwellings. And you all directed us to keep these fees as they are currently for the long-term single-family dwellings. So that's what we've done. We applied the necessary discount to reduce the maximum fee from the study down to what the current transportation impact fee is for a single-family dwelling. So that discount percentage ranges from 91 to 94%, but those fees in the adjusted fee column are exactly the same as they are today. Discounted non-residential uses. I won't go through this whole list, but basically it's just the expanded list of what I just went over in the last slide. And a 25% discount was applied to the maximum fee, and that's how we got to the adjusted fee on the right side of this table. So it varies depending on use and also the unit. But I'm anticipating that some of these may need to be, increased or decreased more depending on policy, which we can certainly go through with you. But this was our starting methodology for these discounted uses. And uses with maximum fees, as you can see, the 0% discount is applied, so the maximum fee for these uses is also the adjusted fee. So if any of these need to be switched to a different category, we can certainly do that. But right now, this is the maximum fee is the adjusted fee for this use. And finally, a few follow-ups from last time with specifically how some of these fees might be calculated with properties in Destin, where, it's a lot of redevelopment. So here's a map that the Community Development Department put together for us that highlights all of the vacant parcels in the city. And just a reminder that vacant parcels would have to pay the full mobility fee amount, where if the property has an existing use on it, they would get credit for that existing use. So as you can see, the highest category of acreage for vacant property is residential, but I do want to point out that that does not differentiate between those zoning districts that allow short-term rentals and those that don't. So just something to keep in mind. And finally, we have a few examples on how these credits may work. So this is a retail to restaurant change of use on Harbor Boulevard that also included a reduction in size. So the existing transportation impact fee is about $9,732. They were applied a credit from the previous building use, which was just over $6,000. So the total transportation impact fee that the city collected for this change of use was $3,425. If the proposed mobility fee was put into place, the restaurant is one of the discounted uses, so that fee with no credit is just under $140,000. The mobility fee credit for the existing retail use is $77,634. So the total mobility fee that would be owed to the city is just under $62,000. This shows just kind of the different avenues that a long-term single-family dwelling could go, specifically if it's converted to a short-term rental. So today, the current transportation impact fee collected for a 4,700 square foot long-term single-family dwelling is $1,896. If the mobility fee discounts and maximums were applied, the mobility fee for a long-term single-family dwelling is the same as the existing transportation impact fee, so that $1,896. If this home stayed a long-term home but was expanded by 1,000 square feet, there would be no additional fee because it's already in the highest size bracket for homes. And if it was converted to a short-term rental, went through that change of use process, then a mobility fee of $51,456 would be owed to the city at that point. So it just kind of shows, the difference between long-term, short-term, and, what happens when those homes are converted. So our recommendation moving forward is for City Council to go ahead and direct staff to schedule and advertise the second required public workshop to continue the discussion and move towards approval. I'm happy to answer any questions and go back to any slides. I know that was a lot of information. So yeah, open it up for questions. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the presentation and information. Up first, Councilman Schmidt.
I move that the city council direct the city manager to proceed with scheduling the second publicly noticed workshop required for the mobility fee adoption, and that the city attorney and staff develop the ordinance for the adoption of the mobility fee schedule per the mobility fee study.
All right, you took a breath. All right, I got a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it, but I have some questions.
Okay. Councilman Bagby, and then... All right, jump in.
Could you review again the extraordinary circumstances at play to justify the fees? I'm not really clear on that.
Yep. Yeah, so first, of course, there's been no increases in the transportation impact fee since 2008. So in that time, there have been, price increases related to construction, partially related to COVID-19 policies, and then also just generally, global supply chain issues. So those are, part of the reason why these the impact fees need to be increased above the phase-in limitations that are outlined in the statutes now, because of the current state of where your impact fees are. So because they're, pretty low right now, it's the 50% increases wouldn't really get you to where you need to go in terms of your transportation needs that you identified in the mobility plan. And then, Alan, I don't know if you want to hop in and add anything else to that.
But I would say furthermore that the increases in those costs are the justification for the need to raise the amount per person that would be paid to create the infrastructure they need. The fee is just unreasonably low to sustain investment that keeps up with the increased demand when new people, jobs, and businesses show up.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that clarification.
All right, Councilman Bagby.
So y'all are confusing me a little bit here. We have a workshop within a city council meeting that we're making motions.
It's not a workshop. It's not a workshop.
I'm sorry, it's advertised a public workshop
The
concerning
state
the
is
adoption.
titling it a workshop. It's a different workshop than the city's known
That's
nomenclature
That's
workshop.
a workshop. That's a workshop. If
So
the state calls it a workshop, if the state calls it a workshop, it's a workshop.
Yeah.
Well, with or without the motion, we are going to have a
Right.
second workshop
Exactly.
anyway, unless council tells us not to, so.
That's why so go to the long-term single-family dwelling. I want to make sure I understand something in the process here. All right, so somebody's got a 4,706 square foot single-family dwelling, and they build it for their family. They wouldn't pay, or they would pay $1,896 because that's what the current rate is that hasn't gone up in 15 years or however long it's been, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that's too low, but I'm not sure when we get to make motions and vote on it, but not in the workshop. But if they say, okay, we're moving or we're downsizing, going to move to our condo, and we turn it into a short-term rental, once that change of use goes through, then the owners would owe the city $51,456, right?
Yes.
Okay, and if they say, you know what, rentals have gone down this year, we're going to turn it into a long-term rental. I'm assuming they don't, or they say, you know what, we moved off for work, or we were in the military and we were stationed in California, now we're moving back, and we're moving back into our house. We're not going to do short-term rental anymore. I assume, they don't get the $51,000, $456 back. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And how about if they took it to a long-term rental just because short-term rentals were depressed in the area?
So long-term rentals are viewed the same as, owner occupied, in the eyes of the LDCs. So, but once it has the approval for the short-term rental, it can be a short-term rental. But my understanding is that if you get approval for a short-term rental and then convert it to a different use, you would get credit for it being a short-term rental, but you wouldn't get that, you wouldn't get whatever excess amount back. Basically, you just wouldn't have to pay any new mobility fee for converting it to a less intense use.
Okay. So, and on the discounted long-term residential rates, I don't have any problem with, the first 5 or 6. I might have a problem, and I'm probably the only one, but when you're building a 4,000 square foot house or more, and you're only paying $1,896 in a mobility fee for a house that, usually an older couple doesn't build a house like that. Usually it's somebody that has 5 cars parked in their yard. I'm not looking at anybody, but the...
And 5 kids maybe?
Yeah, well, they got 5 kids with 7 cars or 8 cars parked in the yard. That just seems very low to me. The other thing, I know we discussed this at the last meeting, and that was, the discounts, you discount things you want more of, and you don't discount things you want less of. So we don't discount hotels, so that's good. I'm not sure I agree with the discounts on the shopping centers, shopping plazas. Shopping plazas, 40 to 150,000 K with supermarket, strip retail plazas, supermarkets, drive-in banks, maybe automobile parts and service centers. We have a couple, but maybe one more wouldn't hurt. Restaurants I'm okay with, medical, dental, hospitals, nursing homes, churches, private schools, all those I'm okay with. So at what point in this process, when we get out of the workshop, can we actually say, or have a discussion and say, that's too big a discount, or I don't think that should be discounted, or whatever, and actually vote on it? Is that like in June when we have that meeting?
I think you can discuss your directives now, and we are listening, and we will incorporate it into the eventual ordinance, assuming that we are going to, that you want the actual ordinance, which would be after the second workshop.
Okay. Yeah, I'm all for private schools and churches and nursing homes and a hospital if we could ever get one here, and even a daycare center, medical dental offices, and restaurants. The other stuff I'm not inclined to provide discounts for, I'll just be honest with you. And then all the things that are not discounted uses with the maximum fees, there's actually the marina. I might actually do a discount if we can find some land in the city to put a marina, or on the harbor or on the north side of the city to put a marina. I might be willing to do that, but the rest of the stuff I'm like, nope, doesn't need to be discounted. The marina is the only one that I disagree with on that slide. So that, again, that's just one person's opinions, but I would raise the ones on the single-family residences, particularly the 3,000 to 3,999 and the 4,000 and more. I would probably raise those discounts, because if you're building a house in this city, that size, you can probably afford a little more than $1,896 for your mobility fee, or $1,677. But that's just me.
Councilman Bagby, may I ask a question right here, Steve? Sorry. For the marina, when you say that, are you talking specifically like a city marina, or just a marina in general, like a private marina?
Yeah, I would say any marina. We've talked about having, the mayor even had it in his State of the City address.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody bought some land and wanted to build a public marina,
Mm-hmm.
I would entertain giving them a discount, depending on, and I guess we have to discuss it a little bit more, because the parking and the bathrooms and
Yeah.
all the other stuff that goes along with that.
Yep.
And if they built it out on Noriega Point, the traffic through Holiday Isle, I'm sure this room would be filled to the
Yeah,
brim.
the reason why I ask is just because if it were a city project, the city wouldn't charge an impact fee to itself. So I just wanted to get that clarity. And then to your point about the long-term to short-term back to long-term, no, like Lauren said, wouldn't get that 51,000 back. However, in the future, if somebody were to buy that property and want to convert it to a short-term rental, that impact fee would have already been paid, and so they wouldn't be charged that impact fee for the short-term rental in the future. So it can kind of be seen as a benefit, in that way. Obviously, the person who pays it doesn't really get it. So
Yeah, no, I mean, they're enabling, developers do that all the time. They're encumbering their project and they say, look, we've got approval to build 80,000 units here, but
Yep.
we're only going to build 20,000. But if you want to buy it from us, you get the other 60,000 units if you can get them approved.
All right, Councilman Schmidt?
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am, for making the presentation. On some of these items, are they coming from a state statute, for example, of why a hotel motel is the dollar amount that it is versus a convenience store?
It's not, Councilman Schmidt, it is coming from the ITE trip generation manual and the trip rates that are in that manual. It's the industry standard for mobility demand across uses. So they have all these uses listed and we use the trip rates for these uses to calculate the fees. And that's why they're different. So you'll see a convenience store has a lot of traffic and therefore a lot of money associated with its demand profile.
Okay. And where would like a storage facility fall under?
Yeah, car wash.
Warehousing or?
yes.
Yeah.
And mattress stores?
Don't worry, y'all about to get your turn up here too.
But I mean, no, I'm halfway joking, but I mean, I'm supporting Mr. Bagby as well, that I would want to relook at some of these things to be more beneficial, to bring people here to build the ones that are going to be good for us, and the ones that a lot of us always talk about we wish we didn't have any more of, do the opposite. So I agree with Mr. Bagby as you're reworking these, or the next meeting, to take those into consideration. I believe probably others would too, but that's at least two of us that want to make it more expensive for the non-favorable things. At least three of us now. So anyways, but thank you so much for your start of this, and look forward to coming to an end.
All right, I appreciate that. And if I heard that correctly, these will be the maximums, and then we can discuss either during this or even after we approve all of this, if we want to come up with different ways for them to reduce their impact fees for other favorable types of development. So just keep in mind, these are always the max, and then we can always create new policies to help others deduct things that we would like to see in general. So with that, this is a public hearing. So this is y'all's opportunity to now tell us what we missed on this topic. So I have public comments on this topic specifically. So if anyone does want to speak on this topic, this is your time to do so. All right, sounds like we hit it out of the park. Yeah. All right, closing public comments, and I do have a motion. Councilman Destin, you got, yes, sorry. No, you, on the line.
Had just to comment a couple of questions. In our current transportation impact fee scheme, do we give discounts?
I mean, if you consider the low rate of the impact fee right now, but no, there are no discounts in the current fee schedule.
Okay, and And it's not been changed or raised in how many years?
2008, correct me if I'm wrong, Alan or Lauren, but 2008 was the last time it was looked at.
Well, you know, what kind of offends me about the whole process is I would be much more comfortable with raising those fees to an appropriate amount rather than putting this in place, which picks winners and losers. There's just something about that that offends me, that the government steps in and by graduating what you're gonna pay, we say, yeah, we want this guy to pay more because we want to discourage him and we're gonna let these pay less. So from just a strictly fairness point of view, I'm always amazed in this deep, deep red area we live in that we still think we should pick winners and losers, which is what this ordinance does. So I don't know which one of these comments staff will enter into the new ordinance, but those are mine, and if you pick which ones you're gonna interview and put into the next as it goes forward, you know, picking winners and losers is a bad idea in my opinion for us to do.
So that I'm following your logic here, winners and losers within the same market? Are you saying as far as providing discount?
We encourage something within the city of Destin. Clearly, we're encouraging some uses in some buildings and discouraging others.
Yes.
You know, I'm kind of offended by that.
That's okay. All right. Councilman
And
Bagby?
I agree, philosophically, I do agree with you, but at some point, we have enough damn car washes, okay? And we have enough storage units, and I get it, eventually the market, you know, people won't use those, you know, those car washes will go out of business, and they'll get torn down, and we'll have a church built there or whatever. I totally and agree 99.9% of the time, but I've just had it with these car washes and these storage units. So I'm sorry, I turned in my red card.
They may take your red card away from you. And I get your point.
Yeah.
It's just that I'd like to be a little more clear and a little bit more above board and honest about when we do that, rather than just sneak it in through these fees. And yeah, the transportation impact fees are too low, way too low.
Yeah.
You know, it's fair just to put them back where they ought to be rather than backhandedly doing this. And 99.9% of the time is probably good enough.
All right. With that, I don't have a motion or a second because it's the workshop. Do we need?
Well, we will proceed to schedule the second public workshop.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you. There was a motion and a second, but evidently
Not necessary.
the statute is pushing this through, not us,
Tell them
for the
thank you, you
workshops.
can go now. Thank you,
All right.
consultant.
And with that, I am going to apologize for people who are here for 5B and C. Our court reporter needs a 5-minute restroom break. He's legally bound to keep writing our words, so I'm going to take a recess real quick. All right, so thank you for your time during the intermission. I will call this session back to order. All right, Ms. Kimberly Kopp.
Thank you, Mayor. This is Ordinance 2423CC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, requiring short-term rental registrations at multifamily units, including condominium units within the City of Destin, providing for authority, providing for findings of fact, distinguishing between short-term rental registrations for single-family homes and short-term rental registrations for multifamily units, renaming Article 6 of Chapter 13, registration of short-term rentals, single-family, but making no other amendments to the regulations for short-term rentals for single-family homes. Creating Article 6A of Chapter 13, registration of short-term rentals multifamily, requiring an application for such registration and authorizing registration fees for short-term rentals at multifamily units, requiring a local responsible party for short-term rentals at multifamily units, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This is first reading again due to the changes that were made on first reading of the ordinance last time. Apartments have been removed, and this applies to condominiums.
All right, thank you. Seeing that this is a public hearing at this time, I'll entertain any topics, discussions, concerns from the public. All I need is your name and address, and the floor is yours for 3 minutes.
Ken Wampler, 4320 Commons Drive. Mayor, council members, good to see you again. Obviously, I'm here because I still think that this is not right. We stop and think about what the condominium owners pay in property taxes, what they generate in sales tax and bed taxes. They support the local businesses. I think that we'd all agree that if it's tourism that we're going after, tourism also obviously cuts both ways. If there's no a decrease in tourism, then there's a decrease in the business. The same arguments that you could make for limited service hotels, you can use for condominiums, because where do these people go? You have one full service quality resort in the area. Those people don't go anywhere. They have their own beach service, just like the majority of the condos that are on the beach. They pay for the parking, the lifeguards, the trash, the noise. They pay for all that already. So at the end of it all, when you look at 24-23CC and 25-01CC, the similarities between the uses of those two products is almost identical. And so to say that one doesn't have an impact on the other, I don't agree. I think that they both have very little impact on what you're pretending to say as public safety, because they take care of a lot of it themselves. It'd be different if we're sitting there talking about the city was going to provide lifeguards, or the city was going to provide trash and noise patrols at the condominiums or the hotels, but you're not. And I get that. You don't have to do that. That's not what you should do. As a matter of statistically speaking, I love the conversation about the TDC, and I won't get into that because, anyways, the city of Destin received $21,565,000 in TDC funds in 2023. $21 million already. But we need more money. We always need more money, right? In 22, it was $66,148,000, and 21, it was $7,269,000. As that number grows, because we have tourism, then the 12.5% gets the city of Destin more money every single year, right? And how you use it, obviously limited uses, is up to you all. And if you need more public safety, there's other ways to do it that spreads it throughout the entire community instead of winners and losers. Winners and losers, right? If we don't want to have a winner and loser, then why does the condo owners have to pay for something that they don't get the benefit of? We're all for public safety. I don't want to see an electric bike get hit by a car, or a car get hit by, and if we're focusing our energy on who's at fault, that's the wrong thing to focus on. We need to focus on how to fix the problem, right? If the focus you have today, or have all along, is public safety, well, let's figure out how to do that where it's spread across the entire community, not just on a subset of the community, so there's no losers in this discussion. We can all be winners, so that's my opinion.
Right, thank you. All right. Push the gray button, it'll turn red. You don't have to hold it. Name and address.
First timer, as you can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor and City Council members, for allowing us to speak on this topic. And I concur with what Mr. Wampler said. I work closely with him as well. My name's John Carnes, General Manager at the Henderson Resorts, both the property, the beach, and the resort at 200 Henderson Resort Way. And, you know, I'll be short. We're not against safety, because safety is the #1 reason why people pick a hotel or a resort to stay at, but we provide that for our 170 rooms at the resort complex, the 37 rooms at the beach side, and the 100 condos that we manage there at that complex. So we provide safety, noise ordinance, trash removal, parking, first responders, AED response. We're there first, right? And like I said, we're all for safety. We just implore that that you give this a chance to rethink on how to maybe collect those funds, or maybe already are collecting those funds, but other ways to gather those funds from the visitors who are here that this safety in this whole area needs to have to protect them. Not put it on the homeowners. The associations are paying an association fee. They're paying bed tax. They're paying all their taxes here to operate in the city. To put that burden a little bit more on the visitor, to the point that we can continue to grow our business here. They've been hurting the last 2 years, as we know from the high water mark in 2023 in occupancy. They're hurting. And we know this is an important business for this community. And I implore you to find another mechanism to get that revenue that we do need. Thank you for my time at the podium.
Thank you. Anyone else? Right, seeing none. Tina, can you hit that? Can you hit that? You're like a local, come on. You know how this rolls. All right, seeing none, I'll close the public comments at this time and entertain a motion for 2423 CC.
Mayor,
Councilman
I move that the City Council approve on first reading ordinance 24-23-CC, and I have comments.
All right, I have a motion. I'm going to second by Councilman Braden, and back to you, Councilman Bagby.
Thank you. First of all, I owe Mr. Wampler an apology. Last time I was imprecise in my speaking about hotels and the impact on the community, although I don't think it's a one-for-one, because some people do come and stay in hotels just for one night as they're passing through, or because they have business here and they're going to take pictures of something. But I was imprecise last time, so I apologize. My issue, and a couple of things I need to make sure that we're clear about in this ordinance. This does not apply to all condos. This applies to condos that are used for short-term rentals. Okay? These are condos that are being operated as a business. And the nature of the ownership of the condos is just like the single-family homes. Okay? It's not like a hotel. That's why I didn't support the hotels. And that's why I think we're going to fix that. But it's the nature of the ownership, and it's the nature of the use. And the short-term rentals, whether they're a house or a condo, to me have the same impact. And I understand, yes, the condo association, because I've managed a condo association, and I've managed a community that had sub-associations in the condos within that community. And I get, you know, the condo provides a beach service, or the condo provides the trash pickup or whatever. I get that. But it's still the nature of the impact on the community. And that's why I support short-term rental condos, not all condominiums, short condominiums used as short-term rentals to pay this fee. Now, having said that, when we get the charging or the rate fee schedule, I'm going to make a motion that we charge up to 1,250 square feet. We only charge them 300. It may be 300, 400. Hopefully we can agree on something. 500 per year, even for a rental condo. Some of these condos are 890 square feet. And to make them pay $500, the same as a short-term rental house that is, you know, 3 times that size almost, doesn't make sense. Just, again, I'm trying to apply a little common sense here. But I know tonight's not fee schedule night, but I just want to give the staff a heads up on that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilman Destin.
Just want to clarify the point that Mr. Bagby made, that we are not gathering hotels that are built as hotels into this.
That's correct. That was an entirely separate ordinance that we will discuss at the March 3rd City Council meeting.
I believe that's the one that has been reconsidered, right?
That's the one.
Just wanted to make sure. My other question or observation is Mr. Wampler's right. The impact that these short-term condos, most of them that are smaller than the houses, is much less, and they provide a lot of the services themselves. So I'm going to agree with Mr. Bagby that while they can pay a fee, it doesn't need to be the same. It needs to be something that's reasonable. It takes into account that they are already providing a lot of these services already. And so hopefully that's where the tower is going to meet the road on what that fee is. And of course, I understand that fee that we set will determine how much money is going to be raised, but Crystal had a number for us sometime earlier in this debate about how much we were going to raise with this. Crystal, do you recall what that was and what fee level we had that set at, just so we can get an overall understanding of how much money we're going to raise through this?
Yeah, so there were some different estimates. I'm just thinking of the one in particular that I did look at today was, we had as one of the options for heated square feet of under 1,500 square feet. We set that at $300 and assumed that 70% of the condos that are of that size are short-term rentals. And with that assumption, that would bring in over $900,000 a year, just to give it perspective. So
Okay.
the target that we were trying to help address, if we were a constant population of only 16,000 people, like the Census Bureau says we are, then we would not need this additional $3.1 million in law enforcement contracts. It's because we bloom to over $100,000 for most days of the year now, and that's due to the short-term rental turnover. So that's kind of where we were headed when when we started down this pathway.
And I get the calculation, you're accurate. These short terms are actually functioning as hotels. I think they are probably a step above what the traditional hotel was, but they're also providing a lot of the benefits that the community needs themselves. So $900,000 a year, and that's every year, right? That's a pretty substantial amount of money. So we're going to have to arrive at what's a fair amount, but they will be paying that in addition to what they're already paying. So somewhere here we'll hit a fee that's going to be fair and not onerous to them, and we can go forward to try to figure that out.
All right, seeing no further requests to speak on the board, I will call the vote. All right, ayes have it unanimously, so moved. Kim?
This is ordinance 2415 CC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida relating to livery vessels, amending sections 13141 definitions and 13144 application for permit of the City Code of Ordinances, providing for findings of fact, clarifying the definition of livery vessel, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This is second reading. We have made the changes council directed at first reading to this ordinance, so it would be different than the ordinance you saw last time, but still clarifying the definition and making the changes expressed in the title.
All right, thank you. And with this being a public hearing, at this time, I will entertain the public for their comments. Yes, sir.
John Stevens, 4025 Indian Trail. Good evening, Council, Mayor.
Appreciate all the hard work you guys have been putting in this ordinance. I feel like it still needs a little bit of tweaking. The second reading has a lot of language that's specific towards yacht bareboats, which the intent was to be more generic and to be more inclusive of all types of bareboats. So currently in the second reading, it's only allowing yacht bareboats to be non-conforming legal use. Any regular bareboat vessels that never applied as a livery with the city and been operating, which is similar to the yacht situation, are not given the fair opportunity. Anybody that actually applied with the city for a bareboat to operate legally and was denied by the city is not given the same opportunity. Any livery that had been following the moratorium since 2019 was never given the opportunity to expand, so therefore they're not given the same opportunity. Also, current bareboat or boating clubs are not given the same opportunity. So we need to make sure that the second reading is more inclusive to all the bareboats. So the livery operators, we've been under the livery moratorium since 2019. That's a long time for livery operators to abide by the rules with no assistance from code compliance. If you think about all the fees that's been raised, it's been about $300,000 that's been collected in fees. What's it been used for? Only making sure the legal operators are doing what they're supposed to be doing? That's not right. You guys need to go after the legal operators. You guys need to have code compliance walking the docks. They don't need a boat. They can just be walking the docks and they can find these illegal operators. And there's all sorts of online activity that shows liveries, bareboats that are operating destinations. We can find them. Currently, there's even vessels that are applying as charter vessels but operating as bareboats. So there's a potential fix. What we could do with adding some more requirements for registering for BTRs. Well, I guess you guys are going to discuss later tonight of a new method for BTRs, but one thing you guys can do is you guys can add to the BTR requirements or whatever you guys are going to change it to by adding capacity of each vessel. By knowing these numbers, you guys will then know, like for instance, livery bareboats can't have more than 12 passengers. Uninspected vessels can't have more than 6 passengers. Then inspected vessels, it's pending what the U.S. Coast Guard passes with their inspection. So roughly there's 24 total registrations that are available with the city from attrition. Right now, there are no boat slips available. If there are any boat slips, there's probably no vehicle parking spots available for those boat slips. So pretty much what I think is what we could do, actually, I had some other ideas like the lottery idea. There's some other stuff that's probably very convoluted. So if you guys would take consideration that we recommend to go back to the first reading, minus what Dewey added, which was, and to exempt bareboat charter businesses based on the time certain that they had been in operations, then we could potentially suspend the livery moratorium for 30 days. If you want, you guys to pass a permanent moratorium afterwards. I know that was the intent a long time ago. But by doing this, I don't think there's going to be many livery operators that apply that don't already have the boat slips. So it's really going to help the yacht bareboats, any other bareboats, to get under compliance. This will make it fair for everybody. If a livery guy wants to apply, if they can, which I don't think there's any car parking spots available to them. Then what you can do is, for these registrations, you can make sure that they meet the requirements of having a commercial boat slip, having the vehicle parking, trash, bathrooms, right away. So when they are applying, if they don't meet those credentials, then they can't apply. So the moratorium's been there for 6 years. So we can actually offer a back payment of $100 per year, so you guys would get you can charge $600. Back when we were applying for the livery permanent 6 years ago, if any of us didn't make it our first year, in order for us to get approved, we had to back pay for the previous year. So it's only fair. Another issue is some of the county ordinances that we need to adopt. And we need to add it to section 13-144, which is permanent for application. For one of them, there's a county ordinance 22-8, section 12-238L. What that will do is that will require all livery operators to attend the county safety meeting. Unfortunately, there was a lot of Destin liveries that did not attend because the Destin ordinance did not require it, where the Fort Walton Beach ordinance required it and the county ordinance required it. Another thing is for safety, and this will actually help the law enforcement on the water, is County Ordinance 22-8, Section 12-238B, which is the wristband system, which is green. There's a green wristband, a pink wristband. There's a yellow wristband, which we can get rid of because FWC changed their law, but that's another thing that we need to add. So on that note, I just want to say thanks for your time. The ultimate goal is to not shut any business down, make the definition simple, make code's job easier to enforce the ordinance, and protect the businesses that are operating legally. Appreciate your time, guys.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
How's it going?
Good.
Did I cut in line?
No.
Oh. Can you believe I beat you up here? So, Jim Green, 824 North Lakeside. I'm also president of the Destin Charter Boat Association. I've been on various panels. Today I'm speaking on behalf of the Charter Boat Association. Our fleet came to support the moratorium after witnessing significant growth in the livery industry with no mechanism to keep it in check. Having a diverse marketplace of water sports is important to offer to our residents and our visitors. Fishing, sightseeing tours, parasail, pontoon, jet skis, and upscale charters are important amenities. The DCBA supports the guidance given to this council by its multiple advisory committees, include bareboats in the livery ordinance, find a way to include a qualifying business from a time certain into the ordinance, and create a class of vessel that supports the upscale charter service. Those were the baseline of the recommendations from all of the APs. The most important thing to the charter fleet is that delivery operations remain within the level capped by the moratorium. The city has registrations that can be utilized for the few businesses that would qualify, and we would like to see the city act on those registrations and bring qualifying bareboat charters into compliance within the moratorium. 2 years to come into compliance is an eternity, especially when we have the means to make it happen. With that, our fleet urges you to reevaluate the direction we are going here and use the surplus of registrations available to provide a path for qualifying bareboat charters to come into compliance within the moratorium. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Name and address, and the floor is yours.
Chuck Hires, 316 Harbor Boulevard, and I would like to second John and Jim, and I'd like to make a motion to get these meetings a little earlier because it is past my bedtime, and I'm really tired.
Twice a month.
So I do agree with most everything they said. One thing that I want to address specifically is you're talking about people that have some liveries that might not be in use at the current moment and putting an expiration date on those. Well, we need to somehow come to an agreement because some of us have some are non-conforming. For expansion, we bought some liveries based on what you've ruled and moratorium and things like that. So we have big-time investment that we plan on using in the future because things are happening, developments, dock positions are going to be open and stuff like that. So to say, hey, if you don't have those by a certain date, that you're taking my investment away, and that's not right. You know, if I had them, and I've had them for ones that I've been using, and I didn't go purchase any, that's different. Maybe you could do that, but there's got to be some kind of non-conforming situation for people that actually purchase them and had an investment. Either that or city can give the money back for them or something, because I made those decisions and other people made those decisions based on what you talked about in the future. So that's the biggest thing that I've got a concern about. But I'm willing to work, you know, maybe we can sit down and talk about it, try and figure out the best option for it, because I do agree with the moratorium and all of those things, but you can't just don't destroy somebody's investment that they've been working hard for.
All right, thank you. All right. I'll look at it. 3 people. You're up there.
Max Fogarty, 500 Driftwood Lane. I guess I'll third what everybody else said. I think
we're all in agreement that we all just want to come into compliance and operate legally, make the community better. You know, we've worked really hard to just be a positive addition, and the last thing we want to do is be told we can't do that, you know? I think it definitely is a strong point that we should all be included to have the opportunity to apply, because I know there's a big fear that you're going to open the floodgates and everybody's going to come in and then there's going to be nothing for nobody. But, you know, just like John said, there's not a lot of slips available. On top of that, there's even less parking. There's even less facilities with bathrooms. And the few people that have worked hard enough to secure those locations, I think, and hold those locations for the time being until all this gets figured out, should at least have the opportunity to get their name put in a hat and, you know, show you guys the hard work that we've done, prove it to you guys, not just stand up here and say it, but, you know, like all these guys have said, we've worked really hard, and we just want to be legal. We don't want to go to bed one day and wake up the next day and read an ordinance that says, oh, now we're going to get shut down again and we got to come fight again. Like, I'm sure you guys are tired of listening to us and having to deal with it. I know Kevin's probably sick of me calling him and asking him for questions, you know, but we're just here. We want to work hard, you know. We're not afraid to work hard. We like working hard, and that's what we want to do. We want to better the community like you guys can. You guys are the best at doing what you guys do, and we want to be the best at doing what we want to do. We want to lift the city up, and I think, you know, shutting certain people down and not giving them the opportunity just based off of you know, the fear of other people that aren't going to do the right thing, I don't think that's right. And to piggyback off of what John said about the code enforcement and you know, the people not being able to enforce it and not being people on the docks, well, you can bet your bottom dollar that if you let the certain people apply and they get their licenses, that those people are going to they're going to deputize themselves as code enforcement officers. Because if I have to pay for something and then I see somebody else not doing it, I'm going to be reporting them. You know, and I'm going to let you guys know exactly where to get them. You can issue us reports, and I'll write reports and pictures. I'll send them right to you guys or whoever needs to get them. You know, we just want to be here with you guys, and we want to help the community. And the other thing I want to add is, and it's one of my fears, there are some permits out there that people aren't using, and there has been talk about them maybe selling them and this, that, and the other. And like, again, I don't know the legality of that. I don't know if that's something you guys need to decide, but, you know, I've reached out to people. I've been quoted upwards of $20,000 for one of these, for a permit that might have cost $150 at some point, and that's borderline extortion. Like, maybe that's the definition of extortion. I'm not sure. I'm a fisherman turned charter boat guy, so I'm doing the best I can on a daily basis to kind of get through this. So, you know, I hope that doesn't happen, but I just wanted to bring you guys that to your attention, that might happen if you guys shut all us out, because that might be my only option. And I really don't want to have to pay $20,000, but, you know, I love this city, I love what I do, and I want to continue to do it. So if that's what I have to do, I'll beg, borrow, and steal and do whatever I have to do to make it happen, you know? Not steal. I don't want to do that.
Public record. All right, thank you, Max.
But that's all I have to say, and thank you guys for your time. And I'd also like to add that I love the passion you guys have. Like, all this stuff has been great, and thank you for all your hard work.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll bring it back to the captain. I'm trying to balance it between one and the other, and that way we got a fresh perspective, both sides.
Captain Gary Jarvis, 804 Mars Street, and Vice President of the Destin Charter Boat Association. Everything Jim said, make that simple. I just want to remind everybody what a moratorium is, and I've been operating under a moratorium since 1996, when they put a moratorium on the charter fishing industry on how many people that could participate in the Gulf of Mexico to make a living catching fish. Not everybody can do it, and it might be called extortion, but a permit that I got for free because I could prove historically I'd already been in the fishery now costs $40,000. I saw on Facebook today. So, and there's a reason that permit is valuable, because you can make a living with it. There's value in the industry. Same thing with livery vessels, a $100 permit. If it's worth $20,000 today, that means your business is in good shape. So I just want to remind everyone that a moratorium is just that. It's to put a cap on what the industry, and particularly we're talking the Destin Harbor, can withstand and what the community pretty much wants. At first, the moratorium stemmed out of the thing that the fishermen were being squeezed out of places to operate their business. And we don't have famous, historical buildings and that kind of stuff here in Destin. Our heritage is in our fishing fleet. It's in Mr. Destin's family and other families in this community that created this place. So I just want to, and Kim and I have gone around with this, in the 4 years I was mayor and the year and a half since, I still want a permanent moratorium that was established in 2016, because that's what, even in 2016, we felt was a good, solid number. It doesn't hurt any single business that's in the livery business. In fact, it makes every single one of their permits in their business more and more valuable, because that's who can operate, has the privilege to operate in our community. Same thing with the charter fleet. So I think that the second reading, there's some language in there that, in my opinion, is a little weak sauce. I think I would like to see some of that language put back in there to be a little more firm. There's 20-some permits that the city is holding right now, that if some people want to invest, especially these new bareboat charter operations, they could purchase or use that permit. But to make a special class to increase the amount of participants, that totally goes against the spirit of the moratorium. I'm totally against. And I really, I know how the process works. And just because it's a second reading doesn't mean we can't have another second reading. So I'd like to see some of that language changed a little bit. I think by allowing those 23 medallions, or whatever you want to call them, give a chance for some of these bareboat operations an opportunity to apply for those medallions and do it that way. That keeps that cap that was established in 2016, the number of participants, in a firm position. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Gary Troop, 86 Shira Street, and own Misbehaving with my wife. And we've been in business since December of 2021. And we have not been flying under the radar. This whole time we thought we were legal based on conversations that we had. And then about 2 weeks ago, had to sign my lease for a commercial dock, which is not cheap, as you guys know. And so, from my perspective, what's most important to me is that we have a pathway forward, at least for the next year, so I cover my dock fees, So I would hate to be put out of business after just signing that lease. But, we don't have any problem with meeting all the regulations and rules. I think we've been doing it for years. And so I have no problem with that. I just want you guys to find a pathway for the people that are doing business the right way, thinking that they were, doing it legally, because we were doing all the things the moratorium required anyway, in terms of having commercial docks, parking, trash, bathrooms, all those things, and then running a high-quality business, and we've talked about it before. We do bring a different experience to people here coming to Destin. Not everybody wants to fish, not everybody wants to go on a pontoon boat, and not everybody wants to go on a yacht. So, but, I think it's a nice thing to have here. Thanks.
Thank you, Gary. All right, anyone else? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public comments. And at this time, if we want to, thank you, Gary. I'll entertain a motion or discussion at this time. I think as soon as Councilman Bagby signs in, he do it. Oh, Councilman Braden, sorry about that.
That's all right. First of all, I know 100% of when I was on council and we adopted or took on this medallion, I believe it was so we could keep track of how many boats, pontoon boats we had. I'm 100% against someone to be able to sell that for $20,000 or $10,000 or whatever. That's not what that was for. I don't think we should allow that as a city. Because we're not fixing to sell whatever the 23 or how many we have, we're not fixing to sell them for $20,000 a piece. We're gonna sell them for $150 and then somebody's gonna go sell them for, you know, 10,000 or whatever somebody's willing to pay for them. That's not what that was intended for. That was intended so we know how many boats we had. And I mean, I have all the respect for Mr. Stevens. He's done his homework. He knows what he's talking about. And I think staff needs to get with him and put a lot of the things that he was talking about in this second reading, because it all makes sense. I don't have the time to put the hours in that he's put in, and it's fair across the board. He's not telling us something that's going to benefit him and his business only. But that's and so I think we need to send this back and tighten it back up some. The 2 years, I have no idea who in their right mind would have come up with the 2 years to get these people in compliance. That's just insane. I mean, we're not putting anybody out of business. We're telling them you got to do it right. I mean, I'm not telling the captain back here that, you know, well, I've been running up and down the road 80 miles an hour for the last 2 years, so you're going to have to give me 2 years to get in compliance and, you know, learn how to slow down a little bit. You know, that don't happen. So that's my 2 cents on it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Braden. Councilman Schmidt.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. And just to set the record straight, are we able to set Robert's Rules of Order aside while we have some discussion on this, considering the importance of what we're doing?
No, we don't. I mean, the discussion is only, we must do it after we get the second, but before it's open floor or.
Right. I mean, a few thoughts. We don't have a motion. That's why I was, technically, we need a motion.
Yeah, if someone wants to put a motion, but no one pushed it, so I was going to let the discussion
I
run.
was just going to set aside those rules so we could have discussion. That's what I asked, but.
Mayor, I move that the city council adopt ordinance 24-15-CC as presented.
All right, I have a motion. Do I hear a second? All right, dies for a lack of a second. Can I hear another motion?
Sure. I'll make a motion to take it back to first reading to follow exactly what was specified at the first reading. Which was to define a livery vessel as it was at the first reading and to exempt bareboat charter-based businesses. No, just to remove that. So I guess just, I don't know. Actually, I'm gonna make a motion to set aside Robert's Rules of Order so we can have discussion.
I'll second that.
Do that, Mr. Destin? Can we do that?
All right, I got a motion. Okay, I got a motion and a second to throw the rules out the window.
Well, it's fine then. I mean, you know, we pick and choose when we want to
Tina,
follow
put the
that
pen
particular
down.
rule for years. So I'll just start talking. If somebody wants to call me to order and tell me to shut up, then we'll go that way. So
Put the pen down,
Hold on,
Tina.
you got a motion and a second.
Yeah, we have a
Can
motion and a
have
second.
vote?
I'll call the vote because I'm assuming what we have on the table here for discussion
we're gonna follow the rules.
does not have anything to pertain with that motion. All right, so I'll call the vote. Robert's rules turning into Bobby's rules. I get the vote on that. Oh yeah, we're doing Bobby's rules of order now. Kevin, the floor is yours.
Before you all get further down this path, I've got to clarify what seems to confuse a lot of people. So there is already in the moratorium an exception that applies to everybody. It's not just for yachts. It already exists and it's been there since the moratorium existed from day one and it's never been taken out. So anybody that has spent money on their business, regardless of what kind of vessel they are, any bareboat can already come to the city council and show that they have spent that money in reliance on the ordinance and request that the council give them an approval. What this one does for the yachts specifically is it does take away the requirement that they come to the council because there's a very limited number of them. We know what they are, we know who they are because they have BTRs, and because they always have a U.S. Coast Guard licensed captain on board, unlike other vessels necessarily. They met the definition, they believed that they met the definition before we changed it, because it said if you have a U.S. Coast Guard licensed captain on board at all times, which most of the pontoons don't, but there may be exceptions, but for the yachts, they all do. And so there's a technical difference because of the way the U.S. Coast Guard regulations are and the federal regulations, which are different from city codes. So they mistakenly believed that they were exempt and they were operating. And so we did include them in this ordinance to recognize that all that occurred, but that does not mean that other vessel owners can't come to the city council for an exception if they have spent money and believed in good faith that they were in compliance with the code. So I just want to make sure that's clear because I'm surprised at the confusion on that. It's been in place for many years.
All right, thank you for that.
So,
One point of order.
Please.
Robert's Rules was adopted by a resolution.
I'm looking at it right now.
It's not on the agenda.
It would need a
as being on.
two-thirds
It
majority
takes an
vote.
extraordinary vote to overrule.
I just got to that.
That was not an extraordinary vote.
My ChatGPT just got to our amendment on this.
Yeah. But I could make a substitute motion to allow this discussion to go forward, period. And that way we haven't violated our own rules, but we're allowing a discussion to take place because we need a discussion to take place.
Whatever makes you sleep at night.
So on the grounds that that motion failed for lack of supermajority, I'll make a motion that we allow discussion before a motion has been made.
All right, motion and a second. Let's call that vote, and then Abear and Bagby are up next. We'll kill that. All right. He works faster than ChatGPT. What can I say? Yep. All right, we're back to Robert's Rules. Kevin's on the floor. No, Kevin's on the floor. I know, wait, listen, we're in this together.
no, it's all good. This item has been talked about for more than any other item in the past over 4 years. It's interesting for sure. So, I mean, I think the second reading is not, in my opinion, and I haven't asked our attorney, it's changed a lot from the first reading. And I don't agree with that. And so my first thought is we shouldn't be having this second reading. It should have gone back to first reading. So I want to figure out a few things how to solve. I think I said A first, and then B, I think I heard Captain Gary Jarvis and previous mayor say that we have a limit, and if we wanted to, we could give some registrations to people because we're under that limit. I think that's one of the things that he said. But we can't do that, or at least staff has said we can't do that until council tells them we can do that. So, because they haven't done that. So, Mr. Jarvis said that. I think that's what he said, but I don't think that's a true statement until we tell staff to go do that. And I think I heard Captain Jim Green, who's speaking on behalf of the Destin Charter Boat Association, say, let's let, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, let's let bareboat charter operators, whether they're a yacht or whatever, come to the city and apply for a registration up to a 400 and something number.
Button.
I was operating on the definition that was in there and the qualifiers that were in that, in the ordinance. And basically saying that we have a surplus and we have some that meet that qualification. So let's get them in compliance in the ordinance and doing business.
I get you. So maybe I didn't get that exactly correct, but I want to, I want to deal with the moratorium thing and allow anybody to come legally apply for a registration to get back to 464, whether you're a pontoon boat, whether you're a yacht. So that's what I want to do. So I mean, if you want, I'm going to allow discussions to continue, but I haven't, we got to deal with this first before we can deal with that. So that's just kind of where I'm at right now. Because I think I already told you what I think. Like, sorry.
Tell them what we're going to hear. We're going to hear it, and then tell them what you just heard. Councilwoman Hebert.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm on board with you, Kevin, on the everything that we have extra. We have folks that are not using theirs. Those registrations should just be automatically back to the city, not given to those people that, hey, this is mine, I'll make 20 grand off of it. No, like Kevin said, get whatever comes first to the city to register. My other problem is with the 2 years coming into compliance. I mean, some of the yacht folks, they're already in compliance. I mean, they don't need 2 years. I mean, worst case scenario, 18 months, get them through this summer to next summer. But still, if they've been in business since 2021 because they thought they were part of a registration that was already part of the city's authorizations, they shouldn't need any time to get in qualifications because they're already doing the business. Like they already have bathrooms and they have a dock and they have food and they have places for people to sit while they're waiting to go out on their yacht. So I feel like that 2 year get into compliance, that's ridiculous. So I feel like we need to relook at what we're trying to do and kind of fix it. Use a lot of what John put out there because it doesn't just benefit the pontoon boats. It's kind of across the board. Everybody wins. And like Mr. Braden said, I don't have the time or the experience to do the investigation and the background work that John's done to figure all this out because that's his world. He knows how it affects everybody that's here tonight and their businesses. So I think that working with the city and the staff, using some of what John brought to us and incorporate it into something that's fair across the board because we want our city to have opportunities for fishing and recreation and yachting for residents as well as our visitors. So that's just my 2 thoughts.
All right, thank you for that. Councilman Bagby.
Thanks, John. You can start making your way back up because I got a couple of questions for you.
Great idea.
So I look at this, what I believe is fair. All right, so you said no businesses should be shut down. Okay, so the luxury yachts or whatever we want to call them, they've been operating, some of them have been operating longer than Gary has with the misbehaving. I don't want those businesses shut down, and you've stated you don't want those businesses shut down. We want legal operations, okay? They thought they were operating legally. They had a BTR, they were paying a tax, they didn't understand that they were, so most of our problem is we're trying to pound this square peg into this round hole, trying to figure out how to keep them or make them legally compliant when they thought they were legal all along. And I agree, nobody wants illegal operations, and that's, the code enforcement is just gonna, in spring break and all summer long, if they don't understand that's their number one mission, they will every other week. I guarantee you that. So the enforcement, I agree with you completely. I did not understand, you said something about a 1 month pause for a moratorium. Why in the world would we do that? Because then every person in Fort Walton Beach would run over here and say, I got 6 boats, I need to, give me my medallion, and they would buy them for $150, and then they would try to resell them for 20. Hell, I might go buy one just so I can, I'm sorry.
That was just an idea, and honestly, they won't be able to come because there are no boat slips available in Destin Harbor. But it's one of the things where Councilmember Schmidt suggested an idea, which honestly, we don't necessarily have to do the 30-day thing with moratorium. I think what Councilmember Schmidt's kind of suggesting, I think that's going to be a good solution.
So which one was that? Because he suggested a couple of things.
Pretty much we're agreeance with Captain Jim Green and Captain Jarvis about letting anyone apply that's for the 24 medallions that are available. And
Okay.
I truly don't think there's going to be more than 24 applications.
And see, and I agree with you, but to me, that's the secondary problem. The primary problem is I want to get the 10 or 15, how many ever they told us there was 3 meetings ago or whenever we talked about this, that have been operating and thought they were operating legally. I want to get them legal within our, whatever our definition of legal is going to be after tonight or after the next meeting. And so-
99% of them are already doing it legal. So all it is just the application.
Okay. So the resale of the permits, I think we have, if we don't agree on anything else universally, I think we agree universally that we don't want the resale of permits. You either use it or you lose it.
So there's
And
a solution.
And I get, you got a year or something, a boat broke down, you didn't have a replacement boat yet. I get that there's got to be a grace period in there, and I don't have a problem with a grace period. I agree that 2 years is too long. And I'm sorry if you've got a yacht and you don't have a commercial dock, obviously the docks aren't completely full because Gary just found one. So, we. Oh, you've had, oh. Very hard to find a spot. Okay. So I would say give them a year. I think you said 18 months or whatever. That would be the maximum. 2 years is way too long. Okay? So I agree that everyone ought to attend the county's livery vessel meeting. Okay? So I'm just trying to capture what I think we all agree on. You had a couple other points. I'm a real slow writer because I write for content. So what were your other points, that I haven't discussed already?
The other
The
ordinance
wristband.
is the wristband colors.
Wristbands, which is going to help the sheriff's department on the water by them knowing who's actually been approved to drive. Correct. So what it is, if they've been approved to drive without a boater's education, means they've met the January 1st, 1988 education policy, then they get a green wristband. If they have a boater's license, then they get a pink wristband. And all it does is just help identify for law enforcement to know what kind of education they have or whether or not they've been approved by the livery business that they are the driver as opposed to some random person jumping on and driving the vessel.
Okay, and let me ask the sheriff, we don't have the Coast Guard here tonight, but can y'all enforce that? Can your guys out there on the boat, do they check for wristbands?
County code enforcement is the ones that are enforcing it right now. It's going to have they're looking at possibly passing it to where we can enforce it with a county ordinance. But I will say that the wristband has helped us tremendously because we can't make a stop for that reason. But when we're able to make stops for other things like possibly a wake zone violation, it does help us at that point in time to determine who is eligible to be the driver. It's also been effective in cutting back on the BUIs that we've had.
Okay, kind of like the old seatbelt law. I was so glad they couldn't pull me over for that.
That's
Yeah.
a good comparison.
Okay, so can our code enforcement, if the county code enforcement can enforce the wristband, can our code enforcement enforce that?
If you pass an ordinance saying so.
Okay.
But our ordinance lies within the harbor.
Oh, so just in the harbor and the bayou?
we don't have any
Okay.
jurisdiction.
Actually, you
out
can't even do the harbor.
Yeah.
We,
Not unless
we don't
turn
have
it into a
jurisdiction over
mooring
the harbor.
Oh, that's right.
But if we passed that and it was in our code, sorry, here,
Oh,
Steve, right here.
Okay, I hear you. Yeah.
If we did pass that in our code, though, our contract with the sheriff would state that they are able to enforce our codes, and so by extension, I would assume, and I think this would have to be a Kim question, I would assume that if we pass that, the sheriff could possibly enforce it. I don't see why not.
I was going to add one thing because
John and I had been talking about these other things for a while, and we were planning, and I'm saying we because you were on the council at the time, but this second ordinance was going to come to you. The definition was supposed to be the low-hanging fruit, and we were supposed to be trying to get the existing businesses covered before the coming season. So we were doing that first, but the training with the county and the wristbands and the medallion issue that we're calling it was all going to be in a Part 2 ordinance. So it wasn't that we were ignoring the issues, and I'm sure John can confirm we've had those conversations, but we were trying to pass this one first and then get into the other.
Okay, and which of these two ordinances, and you agree with everything she just said?
I agree.
Which of these two ordinances was going to cover the resale of permits?
Going to be in Part 2. Everything, well, I know this became complicated, but what we thought was more complicated was coming in Ordinance 2 to give staff more time to make sure we knew what the definition was first, so we knew what we were dealing with in Ordinance 2, but all of that was coming later.
Okay, and so where are we on Ordinance 2?
Ordinance 1 hasn't been passed, so we're nowhere on Ordinance 2, other than that we have a general understanding that once we know how we're defining livery vessels and dealing with existing businesses, we were going to put it together. Now, at this point, John isn't on the council currently, so it may need a new legislative sponsor, but he was the and now it's Kevin.
Kevin is
maybe?
legislative
So,
sponsor.
Anyways, we can get working on that ordinance at any point, but we never had a disagreement on anything to do with wristbands or training.
Okay, so if I were to make the ordinance tonight with the change of, in paragraph A, the 2 years to 1 year. I don't need to do the wristbands, livery meeting. I don't need to, well, I eat my peas, then I eat my carrots. Okay, so I got to go down my little list here. I know it's hard for y'all. The resale of permits was going to, you said was going to be in the second one, right? Yes. Okay, so if I make the ordinance tonight with the change, I guess, of only, instead of 2 years, 1 year, and set, what month is this, February? The second meeting of March as the first reading of, no, you can't do that fast?
Need a little more time than that, and we have a very full, potentially, because you might have a major application coming in then, but I would just say, give us maybe like 60 days or so to talk about.
Well, here's my point, that we all agree on the resale of permits, that we're against that. We also all agree that we have been dealing with this stupid thing for way too long. This is even worse than the pickleball courts. I mean, seriously, and there are not many things worse than the pickleball courts. So what I don't want to do is say, oh yeah, well, y'all bring it back when it's ready. I want to set a time certain and say, I don't care what you have to do, but, and I'll give you 60
Just
days.
give us a window so we can pick a meeting that doesn't have, well, right now, we don't know when we're scheduling certain other major items, so give us a certain amount of days, and we'll pick the meeting with the agenda.
I'm going to give you
that's
till
not
the
most
end of
packed.
April, and I don't care if it calls for a special meeting just to talk about this. I don't want to go past the end of April. Before we get in the summer, for the summer, I want this thing put to bed.
So can I ask that we make sure that the current bareboats are able to operate still until this gets resolved? Because I want to make sure that they feel comfortable too.
Why wouldn't they be?
Well,
able-
if you're waiting until April, there's still a lot of uncertainty, correct? Or are we solving the definition? Is the definition going back to first reading, or?
Well, since we haven't,
Go ahead.
since we haven't changed the definition and they're still covered perhaps under a boat that has a captain, and we can leave it up to staff to make the correct decision whether or not they should let them operate.
That's how we got here in the first place.
Yeah.
If somebody made the wrong decision.
I'm just tired of this. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't, at some point, just say, the heck with, just take all the medallions back and everybody go to Fort Walton Beach. No, I wouldn't do that, but.
I mean, the simple solution is just, like I said, keep the definition to where a bareboat is a livery, and then we'll be able to go from there. I mean, I truly think that will cover where we're allowing it for all the livery operators or bareboat operators to
I'm
operate.
not sure our lawyer agrees with that, so I'm going to.
It currently says all bareboats are liveries.
in the second reading, but then it has all that extra yacht verbiage in there, which I think makes the definition no longer simple.
That's a matter of council. I told you why that's in there, and if
Yeah.
council doesn't like
And-
it,
And
y'all
I'm
can take it
comfortable
out.
with that. I understand why it's in there, because we're trying to deal with this problem, not with this problem. We're going to deal with this problem tonight, and then we'll deal with this problem before the end of April.
But then there's people that aren't a yacht bareboat, such as this gentleman right here.
But
So
he's
I-
a livery.
Well, I mean, according to the definition, it says you're given.
So I'm going to go back to the comment earlier. We have a process in the moratorium ordinance for businesses that spent money thinking that they were legal or whatever their facts are, we would discuss. So I think if there's one specific person you're talking about or entity, they should come meet with staff, let us put together their request to council, and then they can certainly get to council faster than the last meeting in April. So that might be their best bet.
Then will we also allow any current livery operators to expand also?
Oh, that's why there's a
No,
moratorium.
we're not allowing anybody to expand right now.
Okay. I mean,
We're trying to get the people who have thought for the last 3 years that they were legal, and I understand why, and I probably would have agreed with them if I hadn't had all these conversations, to get in compliance with where everybody else is.
and then with the boating clubs, we got to make sure that they are taking consideration too, because back in 2016, we never required them to apply. So we just got to take that in consideration too.
Okay. And the boating clubs, because I've been out on some boats with boating club members, they're not captained by licensed captains, so I don't know.
Per FWC, they're considered a livery.
Okay.
Per this definition, they'd be considered a livery too, but because they didn't have captains, we did not include them with the yacht exception. So again, how many boat clubs are in the city? 2 or 3?
I think
One?
it was one.
Okay, so that one
There's
can
one.
also come in and make the request under the moratorium.
That's
for-
legacy, right? Yeah, okay.
Under Marbella.
I mean, so it sounds like there's 2 entities that need to request special agreements from
Legacy is
council.
Peter, the other one's not.
All right. With that,
Okay, so
Councilman-
I'm gonna make a motion, and if I mess this up, somebody just tell me what I think we just agreed to. Dadgummit, stop. I move that the city council adopt ordinance 24-15-CC with the change in paragraph A from 2 years to 1 year, and that we direct, just one at a time, or can I put direct the staff by the end of April?
Put it all in.
And direct the staff, the city manager and staff, to bring back prior to the end of April, ordinance number 2, which would cover county livery meeting attendance, wristbands, resale of permits, and I think that's it. Did I miss something? FWC registration.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. I got Councilman Braden Schmidt up next. Councilman Braden.
It says I was speaking earlier and I never did.
Oh, you want to jump in? Jump back in then. Here we go. I'll put you guys back up.
And the only part that concerns me here, and I think we can fix it in the motion that was just made, is we need to have a mechanism, as John said, to get the yacht bareboat people or the other bareboat people into the system in a timely fashion. And I would suggest that we direct staff also to add into the second ordinance a mechanism that allows folks who are operating legally with a BTR, with the proper parking at a commercial marina, 30 days to apply for one of those 24 licenses or medallions or whatever we call them are available. And that should pull them into the system and give them 30 days to apply. And that way we have hopefully solved all the problems. Now, should we put that into tonight's ordinance? It would go back to first reading.
I would say no,
You wanna put it in
personally,
the
because
second ordinance?
they have a mechanism right now currently under the moratorium where they can apply anyway. so they don't need to further complicate this ordinance. They have a process, and then we can address it and update it in ordinance 2. But there shouldn't be a delay. They can come in tomorrow and ask.
Okay, if that's the case, but I would like to see it clarified with a nice, clear path forward for them in ordinance number 2. And
Okay.
and can we make that part
Yeah,
of it?
I'll adopt that amendment.
All right, we got an amendment.
And,
And I'll agree with the second.
and the other safety issues we're putting in, right?
Right.
Okay.
All right, Councilman Braden.
Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, thank you. So did we just go from give 'em a year to 30 days?
No.
Okay. All right, what are we giving, who are we giving them, and what are we giving them a year to do?
Yachts have a year to, they can come in and apply. They have a year to get in compliance with the bathrooms and the parking and all this, and the commercial slip stuff. So they get a year as opposed to the 2 years that was written in the ordinance that was before us. What I understood Mr. Destin was saying was more on the bareboat guys that they have, once we pass ordinance number 2, which covers this whole litany of other stuff, they have 30 days after the passage of that to come in and apply for their authorization medallion, whatever we want to call it. Now, Kim just told us that they actually could come in and apply tomorrow, but if they don't, you know, I have no problem adding the 30 days in the second ordinance so that they have a clear path and it was written down as opposed to just the ones that are here tonight heard it verbally that, hey, you can come in tomorrow and make your application, because that's not everybody out there probably that applies to. So that way, when we bring it back in the second ordinance, it'll be published, it'll be official, we'll go through 2 readings, the whole 9 yards. Did I get that right?
Yes.
So the people that have a BTR already, they get 30 days to,
No, tomorrow they can apply.
yeah, but tomorrow, but they get up to 30 days to apply. Right, and then the people that are doing it illegally get a year? No. Okay, who's getting a year?
So in this ordinance, it's the yachts. They're not, so what we're saying by becoming legal is they have to have their commercial location, their dock, their parking spaces, their bathrooms, and their registration approved. And I think we gave that window to get them through this summer as they were already existing, but then have additional months to find that location if they didn't already have it. They're not actually all, well, we wouldn't know if they are all in compliance or not because we've never gotten an application. But from what I understand, they do not have all the requirements. Some of them might, the one that spoke tonight may, but there's other yacht businesses besides the ones that are here tonight that may not have all of those things lined up.
Okay, I'm just trying to just figure out what on this entire planet that I was doing something illegally or not illegally that I would get, and what government body or non-government body I would get an entire year to get in compliance.
Decision for the council. Our thought was they need time to get bathrooms constructed, a development order, parking. Those things tend to take time. It's not the same as speeding
So
on
they
a road.
can just continue to operate.
Yeah. If council doesn't like it, y'all can lower the time, which you've already lowered from 2 to 1, but you can take it back further if you want to.
I mean, in my experience sitting up here for the last 9 years is if we give them a year, it's going to probably do 3 or 4 years before they get in compliance. So they're going to come in here in a year, 11 months. Well, I got my application. Now I need, I'm trying. You just got to give me time. Year and a half later, I'm trying. I got my contractor now. 2 years later, we're trying, but hurricane hit, 3 years later, still trying, but I'm still operating every day. I can do that, but I can't get my bathrooms and stuff built. I ain't got time for that. I don't know. I can't support it with that. I mean, I just think it's just way too much myself to I just
What
know,
would
I
be
just know
your-
how we operate, I know how the city operates, with the magistrate and all that, it just ain't gonna happen. If I know I got a year, I'm gonna come in here in a year and I'm gonna apply for it, then I'm gonna ask, well, he's applied, he's trying. 30 days. If there's places available, I mean, if they're gonna buy a piece of property and, build a bathroom and all that, I mean, where is it? I don't see it happening, but I just know how the city operates, because I've been a part of it for quite some time now, and it ain't gonna happen. They're gonna get in here in 11, 12 months, and they're gonna get that application, and they're gonna beg the city to work with them, and then it's just, 1 year is gonna turn, 2 years would have turned into 10. So that's just
We
my.
could, I mean, to address that, I'm just trying to think about how to address it. I don't think if someone doesn't have a bathroom or a slip or parking, there's no way they'd get it in 30 days, but we could create like some kind of graduated, this complicates it a little more, but we could say you must have, your application in within 30 days, and then, the problem is it won't even be complete without those items, but we could then work on some kind of scale where, you have 3 months to get this done, another 2 months to get this done, and the whole thing is complete within, I don't know, the time frame of a year or less.
Can I ask a question? If they're not in compliance in a year, who has approval authority to extend them? Do they have to come back to the city council for a variance?
Under the
Or
current ordinances, they'd come back to you.
they'd have to come back here. So in a year, if they come back and they say, oh man, I just got a contractor, you got my vote to tell them, I'm sorry, you had a year, have a nice day, give the medallion back.
And I also think, I know what Council Member Braden is also referring to, because the special magistrate sometimes can give extended compliance, but we could, if you want to direct us to make it come back to council and not start code compliance proceedings, that's fine. And I say it would go to council because, again, under the moratorium ordinance, there's that process where they can ask for those approvals from you. So we can require that instead of the magistrate.
It's like Travis. He operated, best of my knowledge, 3 years illegally. We kept telling him, you can't get it. 3 years went by. And he's operating an entire business down there. I don't know how many pontoon boats, parasol boats, jet skis. He put us off for 3 years.
No, but good point, but I think we got a fair compromise of where this can go. We can just shut them out in a year and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
To get that, yeah, and then it would be up to us to show that lenience. All right.
That particular individual got an approval from council to operate without his permit at first, so.
Councilman Schmidt, bring us home.
Oh, yeah, I don't think
Or take
so.
me home, one of the two.
I just don't understand why we can't just stick to the original plan and just update the definition to a bareboat charter as a livery vessel. Why we have to speak specifically to yacht bareboats, and now we're, I get the exemption, I get what they could do if they're not a yacht, but why are we gonna update the definition to only yacht bareboat tonight? Why not just leave it as the first reading was, and then make the yachts and any other bareboat go through the process that we're referring to? I don't understand that. Is there a reason why we're doing that?
From my perspective, the problem, the big problem, I mean, there's individual problems all over the map, obviously, but the center mass of the issue, of the problem, was with the luxury yacht group, where we had 10, 15 people in one specific sector of the business that needed to be addressed, who all thought, every one of them thought they were legal. Every single one of them that I've talked to thought they were legal. But they technically weren't. And so that was the problem I thought we started out fixing 3 months ago, last year. And then it kind of morphed into, as things seem to do up here, it morphed into something entirely different. And then we were trying to solve all the problems of the world in one single ordinance, and it was like, It's not working. You can't do it in one ordinance. Let's solve this. Let's get the definition right, because then with the definition, we can come back and solve these other 10 items of wristbands and, livery meeting attendance and all this other stuff. So that's why.
But can we not solve the same problem by not putting the additional 17 sentences about a yacht rental business? Can we not still do that?
I don't know if we can. I don't think so. I mean, Kim probably has a
Can we
better
not
answer
still do
than I
what?
can give you.
Well, can we not still allow the yacht businesses to operate
If you all
and
want
the
to,
pontoon bareboat business to operate without adding this entire section that specifically caters to yacht rental businesses?
Captain Green?
I just wanted to chime in there. So the qualifications was to be in business before 2024 started. So those businesses have been operating for a couple years under the assumption that they were operating legally and BTR'd by the city, which means they met the requirements by the city to operate. So it's not that they don't have those. It's not that, in my mind, it's not that they don't have those facilities or they aren't meeting that requirement. It's that they thought they were operating, and now the state and we are changing the definition of what a livery vessel is. So it's not like you have all of those. It was the yachts that were operating as charter boats in the city, and that's where this all came from instead of bareboat charters. So I think that I was okay with the year simply because one of the qualifications for them to get that year grace period was that they were operating prior to January 2024. So to me, they've been operating in this city as a business, and the city was allowing it to happen, or, I'm not pointing any fingers, but we were allowing it to happen, and then the definition changed. So to me, the exemption of a year was okay because they have been operating a BTR since 2023.
Okay.
Per that ordinance writing.
And I think, and I may be missing the point of your question, is because the yachts were all captained by licensed Coast Guard captains. I'm not sure every livery vessel is. In fact, I'm pretty sure some of them probably are not. But, so, again, we were trying to solve the center of mass of the problem, of the issue that was before us, and it's kind
We're
of
solving the issue of 2 to 3 individuals
Well,
that we're
there's
here
about
speaking at
15.
every event.
Yeah,
And
there's
I'm not
about
disagreeing
15
with you,
15 of
but
them.
we have another individual, so there's 3 and there's 1, that's 33% of 3. So I'm just saying, I think.
They can come in tomorrow.
But then why not make the yacht
Can
businesses
they
come
come
in
in
tomorrow?
tomorrow?
Why not make the yacht businesses come in tomorrow? I'm just saying, can we not update it?
All right.
Well, then why don't we just leave it, why specifically spell out at a second reading that it wasn't in the first reading, a yacht business only? I just don't understand that.
From my understanding, that was just clarification, but I'll defer to you.
And I'm not against yachts, I'm not against anybody, it doesn't make sense to me.
The reason was, on first reading, it included the language about a U.S. Coast Guard licensed captain. The yachts, unlike other livery vessels in the city, always have a U.S. Coast Guard licensed captain, always. They can't get insured without it. Pontoons and other bareboats don't have that same issues. They mostly don't have U.S. Coast Guard licensed captains
Not
on.
all. Some
There
bareboat
may-
charters have US Coast Guard.
So a bareboat, by definition, does not always have a U.S. Coast Guard licensed captain on.
Right.
So the yachts were a different story because they had a captain, they always had a captain, so they thought that exempted them reasonably from the livery ordinance. Their other vessels did not have that same circumstance, but I'm not saying the other vessels are not included because they can come to the council and ask for that exception, and they've been able to do that since 2018.
Right, it's just more hoops for them, not the
Well,
others.
y'all can change it if you want to, but that's the reason.
And again, we've been talking about how to fix the medallion problem, and now we're saying staff can't do it until the end of April, which, no, they could do it the next meeting.
Yep.
It's ready, so I just, And that's what happens is 2 months goes by, and next thing you know, we have the baby grand here, and we don't want to talk about medallions anymore because the baby grand's here. So then next thing you know, in June, July, August, September, October, November, we're talking about medallions. So
Okay.
once again, we've been talking about this for 5 years.
We are not at all saying that we are putting this at the last meeting in April. We said, give us a little window because we have lots of agenda items and we can figure out a meeting where there is ample time for discussion with the community because there's a lot of interested people, and we can not have a meeting that goes till midnight when everybody wants to go home. We'll try to put it on the earliest possible meeting. It might be in March.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we've amply gone around the room. Everyone's got their thoughts. You're either confused or you're in your trench of where you want to be. So with that, I'm going to call the vote and talk to everyone else. Talk to us afterwards. Talk to us during email. I had a motion, and Councilwoman Hebert.
Mayor?
You quit counting.
Don't tell us how long that
Can I read what I have? Because I'm not
Ray,
that
yes.
comfortable that
Yes,
I
please.
caught everything.
Yes.
And this is Mr. Bagby's motion.
Don't forget the minute.
It's the motion as written.
Okay, City Council to approve ordinance 2415-CC on second reading with changes to paragraph 8, reducing 2 years to 1 year for compliance. Direct the city manager and city attorney to bring back ordinance number 2 before end of April, covering the following: wristband resale permit, attending county livery vessel meeting, and to include bareboat operators with proper parking and BTR into the system in a timely manner, giving them 30 days to apply for the 24 available medallions.
And now the amended, yeah, and then there was amended FWC. Oh, man. Sorry, Max, we're calling it.
7 minutes? Come on, Tina.
Who seconded it?
This is not official. There'll be another reading regardless.
I did.
I'll talk to you after, man. All right. We have the record keeper approved. Ray will call the vote. All right, ayes have it, 5-1. All right. We are done. We're done with the public hearings. All right, thank you. All right, Councilman Braden.
Thank you, Mayor. I have the noise ordinance, and what I'm trying to fix with that is what we have here, going out Division 2035. Number 1 is financially sound city, and number 2 is quality of life. And the mayor said the same thing in his address tonight about the quality of life. That's what I'm trying to get with this ordinance. Couple things I'm gonna put in the motion is investigator office shall have a direct line of sight from where this noise is coming from. So if it's 150 feet and you don't have a clear line of sight, then it doesn't matter about the 150 feet. If he's 300 feet and you still don't have a line of sight, still can't tell him to shut it down. And I sat in with the city manager, captain, sheriff's department, some of the staff, and a lot of this was their recommendation as well. No, if the officer goes out near your house, I'm complaining about your home or a town home, and he goes 150 feet and he ain't got a clear line of sight of where that music's coming from, you can't write a citation. So they just wanted that language struck from here. So get rid of the 150-foot rule. Get rid of the, and I'm talking a residential area only. Get rid of the 150-foot rule and go with the setbacks, where the setbacks are. Because the way we permitting homes these days, there's 14 feet between homes. Some of them's not even that. A lot of the townhomes got a 0 lot line. So it's, you sit in your townhouse, your home is 14 foot from your neighbor, and your home's vibrating, but it's still not within 150 feet. So their recommendation was just going with setbacks. Mine on the second one would be in construction. It says it can go on, provided each activity requires between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. Construction and demolition activities. I don't think anybody needs to be demoing a house or running jackhammers at 10 o'clock at night if we're trying to put our kids to bed in a residential area to go to school the next morning. My recommendation was 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then this other section 14-56 on exemptions exempts pouring concrete can be done between 3 a.m. and 10 p.m. When I worked out at Eglin, we poured a lot of concrete at one time, and never once did we ever need to start at 3 o'clock in the morning. We started at 7 and poured whatever we needed to pour. I think pouring in a residential area at 3 a.m. is ridiculous. I believe that needs to go. And then we have on offenses, the enforcement penalties. First offense, written notification. Second offense, fine $100. Third offense, $250. Fourth offense, or 4 or more violations occurring within any 6-month period. So I can go a whole summer, whole 100 days of summer. I mean, that's, to me, that's, and then you got 5, the fifth violation of noise exists. You shall go to the magistrate, I guess. My recommendation would be first offense, written notice, second offense, $100 fine, third offense, $500 fine. There is no so many offenses, 2 or 3 offenses within, or 6 offenses within a 6-month period. I think that needs to go. And like I say, I'm talking about residential only. And I think y'all struck when we updated this, we got rid of this noise meter, noise level and meters and weight and all that. I think that's been strucken from this. Because we can't, the sheriff's department said they can't use a noise meter. They just don't hold up in court. And that's all I've got. So with that, I'd just like to make a motion to make those changes to this noise ordinance as presented tonight.
I'll second it.
Ray, you good with that? You got it all? All right, Councilman Bagley?
Okay, I'm trying to remember what the 150-foot rule was. I know the 300-foot rule, but I can't remember the 150-foot rule.
Steve?
According to the city manager and the sheriff's department, they could go out and it was 150 feet from your property line. They go 150 feet, and if they deemed it a nuisance, then they could write a warning and then a citation. Right. But that is if we take out the line of sight in there. But
I don't remember line of sight being in there. Is it?
Yeah,
If in there.
it's under the definition of measurement of, or how it's to be determined by the on-site officer. They have to have line of sight to the source and line of sight with hearing as well, or line of audio, whatever that term is. And if they go out 150 feet and they can't, and it's not, and it's a reasonable level at 150 feet, it's not a noise violation. So that means if your neighbor right next door to you is blasting their music, but you can't hear it, they have to go 150 feet. And if they can't be heard at 150 feet, it's not a noise violation, but it's obviously affecting the person right next door. So that's the purpose of getting rid of the the distancing requirement in residential districts, or at least residential uses.
Okay, so we're changing it to, if I can just hear it, from 300 feet away, or what?
No, 300 feet is only applicable in the South Harbor Mixed Use District right now. During that meeting, we had discussions about different ways to fix this. And so staff's taking a look at that, and we'll come up with some, there's a litany of notes that I have from that meeting that we'll address in this rewrite. We'll address all the things that were spoken about here as well. So, but the 300 feet is only applicable right now in the South Harbor Mixed Use District.
With that said, I'm trying to fix it where, like townhomes, a lot of townhomes are 20 feet wide, the living space. So you'd have to go, what, 8, 9 doors down to be able to, 150 feet to hear this, but if you're in a townhouse and the guy next door, you can't go in your home and watch TV, or your kid can't sleep because you can hear the music word for word. To me, that's unreasonable.
Okay.
But still, you're not 150 feet, and a lot of these properties, a lot of them in Destin are 50 feet wide. So that'd be 3 doors down.
Yeah, part of me wants to make a substitute motion and just say, can you bring this back to us in writing so I can actually see what it is that we're voting on, because I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'm
that
following.
was my
Yeah, I mean, I think I
understand.
support everything, but I like, I like to read, and I like to, that way.
This would have to come back at a first reading anyways. in
That
ordinance
motion is
form.
for
So,
council
period.
consideration.
Oh, I thought you were making the motion to approve that, okay.
No, it's got to come back to us
Yeah.
at first reading.
Councilman Trammell?
I guess my question is the line of sight thing, because if you're next door and it's blasting, I don't have a line of sight because they're in their house. I mean, I can't see them. They're in their backyard. I can't see them. They got a 6-foot fence around there.
It's to the source property. You don't have to see the source. You just need to be able to identify by line of sight the source property.
We're striking that.
We're taking that out, or we're leaving it in?
No, we're taking
Yes.
Councilwoman Hebert.
Thank you, Mayor. I realize this is about the home's noise. What about vehicles? Like when you can hear a car as it turns off of Bayou onto Main Street and he's still a half a mile and it sounds like a concert. Is there, I know the sheriff, y'all have to hear him. Is there anything that is done with those loud stereos that are vibrating?
There are state laws that allow us to write citations to people who have got loud stereos.
But you have to physically see them or catch them in the act.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thanks.
Pensacola has passed an ordinance prohibiting loud cars in the downtown.
I think we did. Check with your mayor friend.
No one online heard what he said because he didn't push his button. But we should look at Pensacola. Yeah, it should have been the capital. All right, I got nothing on the board. This will go to ordinance, so we got 2 stabs at the apple anyways. I love the increase, so I will call this question. All right, good revisions. Thank you,
Last
sir.
one is, can anybody explain to me why the city's spending $35,000 a year to cut the grass at Matty Kelly's Art Center over here?
Yes.
Yeah, it's in their agreement.
So can Mr. Destin, because he was up here, I think, when we made the agreement, that if they came in the city limits, because they were gonna build this artist village out there, and they would come in the city limits if we would maintain that area, because it was gonna be, the renderings were fabulous. They were gorgeous. And it was gonna be the cat's meow, and a majority, I don't know if it was unanimous or not, but a majority of the council said, Yep, we're on, and we memorialized it in an agreement with Mattie Kelly Arts Foundation. That's why we pay to cut the grass out at Mattie Kelly Arts.
Have they held to their end of the bargain? Is it a cat's meow and everything they said it was going to be? I mean, is it? And we've been doing that for how many years now?
Pretty good long time.
Larry's city manager, wasn't there something else we talked about this? That they had said they were going to provide some kind of, or build something over there that was going to give us more tax revenue for the city?
That was my understanding, what drove the agreement, that I haven't been privy to the conversation, but we certainly can find out what the status of it is if you would like us to.
If you can put that under my name the next meeting and bring that back so we can revisit that, because I think it's been 20, 30 years and we've been spending $35,000 a year cutting grass and they hadn't held up their end of the bargain. So.
Yes, sir.
That's a lot of money. Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Just for clarity, Councilmember, would you like us to have a conversation with them as to whether they have any intention to do any of those things, or
No,
have that
sir.
information at the next meeting, or would you rather for us to give
No,
us
sir.
direction then?
No, sir. It's my understanding I don't know how long they've been there, 25 years? Has that been in place that long? I'd like to know, but they haven't done it yet, so.
Okay.
No need to be discussing it now. We'll just be giving them another 20 years.
Okay. So we'll just wait till we deal with it at the next meeting? Okay.
If you just bring it back so we can understand it, know what it's all
Sure.
about, how long
Sure.
it's been.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, Councilwoman Trammell.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to appoint Jim Green to the Harbor and Waterways Board. Nominate,
All right.
and he
motion
was
sec-
here, but he left.
Seconded by Councilman Destin. Seeing no further discussions.
Excuse me, sir?
Yes, sir.
Is he already on 2 meetings?
No,
Councilmember Trammell already nominated John Stevens, and then appointed.
I can appoint more than one.
Yes.
Do you need someone else to appoint?
No.
Because we've all appointed one, so we can appoint more than one. That was
I
the
got
resolution you gave me.
Councilmember Smith and Councilmember Braden have not appointed.
Oh, well, if you want to appoint him,
I'll appoint him. John?
Jim Green.
Jim Green.
Put your light on. Put your light on.
Nominate Jim Green.
All right, I got a motion.
I'll second it.
Trammell. All right, someone's got the second. All right, we'll call a vote. Ray's got a custom. Congratulations.
He just got nominated.
All right. It's official.
I'm going to do Mr. Guile a favor tonight since he's not here, and I've been charged with putting all these people on the Town Center CRA, and I'm going to nominate Iris Bethay, who has an application in.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion. All right, call the vote. All right, ayes have it.
The next thing I have is just a question. I know we have a lot of things within our ordinances and our nomenclature within the city about the Gulf of Mexico. Does it need to be changed to the Gulf of America now? In all of our ordinances? I was going to say in our stuff. I don't know the answer to this question. I'm asking the question.
You all could pass a resolution that we recognize the name as the Gulf of America if you want to.
I'll pass that resolution that
All
will
right,
recognize
I'll second
it.
it then.
Which one of you is the legislative sponsor, Teresa or Sandy?
Teresa.
I'm not
Teresa's
deciding.
going to be it.
Okay.
Gulf of America.
Do I have to sign it?
Mayor, you will sign.
You can use my stamp. That'll be my veto pen. I've been hearing our governor talk about it.
That's all I have tonight.
All right. All right, Councilman Destin.
Mayor, on that note, I don't have nothing to say.
Oh, come on, we got to pass 10 o'clock here. 5 hours without y'all. All right, Councilman Bagby.
Yep, have a couple of things. No, so it's going to be good because I'm bringing them back at the next meeting. Maybe. On the Crystal Shores that is underneath my name, there seems to be some confusion because I think we've directed the staff to go ahead and execute the plan that we have on Crystal Shores, but some members of the staff think that we haven't given them direction and that we're still considering the White House. And my last memory on the White House was we directed Kim to go talk to, or somebody to go talk to the owner and come back, and the owner still said, I don't know, 6.5 million or 5.3 million or something, and wouldn't consider a swap. And we said, okay, the heck with them, move on. But I will make the motion to direct the staff to move on with the Crystal Shores Beach Park development on the property that we currently own.
All right, I have a motion by Councilman
I'll
Bagby.
second that.
Got a second by Councilwoman Trammell. Any further discussions? Councilman Schmidt?
Yeah.
Sorry, Jim, that was swapping the property we have?
No, we talked about for a year of, the White House is right in the middle.
Mike.
The White House is in the middle of two parcels that we own, and we were going to swap, and, we said we'd give you $500,000 or whatever to swap, and it was like, nope, I'll sell it to you for 6.5 million, and it was like, no, or 7.3, I think is where we started. Then we got down to 6.5 million, and finally it was just like, the heck with you. We're just going to pave those, and we're going to invite all our friends to go out there and party on those two parcels, and when he doesn't rent that thing for a whole year, maybe he might sell it for actual market price.
What were you going to be wearing out there?
Thong.
Ah. God, just wanted another meme for my bank. Councilman Schmidt.
So, when I was talking to staff in the briefing, was talking about taking that far east property that's to the left of that White House and maybe swapping it for the property on the far west.
We tried that too.
Nobody.
That didn't work out.
I thought it was my understanding they'd swap it and they'd give us some money because it was a smaller piece.
Yeah, I remember it being like 500,000, and they were going to give us 50. I think they maybe pumped it up to 60.
We got two appraisals, and our appraisals showed like a $500,000 difference in the price of the properties, but the other property owner would only offer us between 50 and 100,000. He started at 50 and got up to 100. So we were like, what about the other 400,000?
Yeah.
Okay, and I apologize. What was the motion again, Jim? I'm sorry.
Just to
We have plans for Crystal Beach to just execute those plans. Put marquee on all the,
park around that White House.
yeah.
Councilman Schmidt?
Yeah, I'm not on the same page as you, Mr. Bagby. We have a plan. I don't think we have a plan. The plan was to do a park there on multiple parcels, and then we don't have a plan after that because that's not happening. So I feel like we need to have staff bring us back the next steps of what our options are to make a plan. I don't think we have a plan.
Yeah, we have a
So
design.
We have a design
Yeah,
with
we've had a
a
design.
parcel and then a White
And we have-
House, and we've reviewed that and approved it?
Yeah, it's been before us.
But
There
then
was
why is staff
parking.
so confused about it then?
Well, they thought that we were still negotiating.
So I'll make a substitute motion at the next available meeting to bring us back what the actual current plan is so we can vote on that, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm not recalling what you're
It's
talking
just
about.
parking on the out parcel there. There's no thing.
Okay.
All right, I do have a substitute motion on the floor. Do I hear a second?
Yeah, I'll second it, just to have them bring back the.
Yeah, that'd be great. I appreciate it. There's been a lot of discussion on that.
Yeah, maybe bring coffee with them.
At the next meeting.
Yeah.
Not June.
Yeah, next meeting. All right, I have a substitute motion with a second. I'll call that vote. All right, ayes have it.
Second, bullet is on FPL undergrounding. I had a conversation with the staff today and asked where we were on phase 2, and we have had some discussion that we would stop at phase 1. I think another council member said, you know, maybe we want to go into West Destin or Old Destin before we do 98, and we kind of, the staff was getting mixed messages. So I'm going to ask that they put, or they felt like they were getting mixed messages. I'm going to ask that they put under my name for the next meeting, the FPL undergrounding. And the reason I'm doing this is 16 months ago, on October the 16th, 2023, is when we brought the first phase to us to be discussed and voted on. 16 months from now, we will be ready to do phase 2, because we're already 2 months into our 18-month completion. So what I'm trying to get us out of and trying to get the staff out of is we do phase 1, and then we say, okay, now let's start phase 2, except we have to go through the surveying and the where we're going to put all the transmission things, and oh, did we get all the owners, property owners to sign all the, and then it's another 18 months before we start phase 2. What I would like to do is when we finish phase 1 is to roll into phase 2. And when we finish phase 2, but we can only do that if we start the phase 2 prep work now. And so, yes, we have to come up with the money, and I understand that, and I've talked to Crystal, and we'll go through the numbers, but if we don't start the ball rolling on phase 2, we will get to the end of phase 1, and we'll probably be early, and we'll all be happy, and then we'll be sitting dead in the water for another 16 months. So you will see the agenda item under my name at the next meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. All right, Councilwoman Bear.
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing. I think it's 10 o'clock. We could move this along.
Councilman Schmidt.
Sure, so the first thing is what we put on the agenda this evening was I'd like to nominate Ms. Brianna Updegrove for the LPA committee. Mr. Steve?
All right.
I'm sorry, what was that? My apologies.
Putting somebody on your committee, state regulation.
Oh, thank you.
All right, got a motion and a second. Ray's gonna make a custom thing. All right, call the vote. All right, ayes have it, 6-0.
Thank you. And the only other thing, I just wanted to thank the new company that is doing the landscaping. They installed pine straw today, and probably for the first time in nearly 4 years, I saw somebody install pine straw properly, where they edged around the edges of Airport Road and the City Hall and everywhere else. So I don't know what else they're gonna do on that contract, but they figure out how to do that pine straw, which is amazing. It's just a visual beauty when you drive down the road and it's tucked in the edges. So kudos to them. And yes, thank you so much, Michael, and everybody else that's working with that team.
The amount, micro to macro up here. All right, so the first thing up.
A lot about it.
Hey,
I just want to give kudos. You know?
I appreciate a good compliment. All right, the first one, kind of talking along FP&L. We did the utility wrap last year. We kind of all seem to agree that let's test it out. Let's make sure it doesn't fade. What does this look like? And especially now, part of my announcement was going to be congratulations to the Destin Park Foundation for officially becoming a recognized 501c3 nonprofit. I think little wins like this are what we can easily task them to help us with, which is getting someone to sponsor a wrap or sponsor anything else that we're looking to beautify our area in. So I guess what I'm asking here is for staff to maybe bring back information for us on what it costs for these wraps. Are there different cost levels because of the size? I know some of the boxes on 98 are 6 feet tall, all the way down to a little stub that we did over at Kelly and Calhoun, which was maybe 2 feet tall. So I was hoping to see, one, are we still okay with wrapping? And two, is there a way that we can get some pricing for the different levels of FPL that's out there?
So I'll make the motion to do that, and I think we already have all that on file.
Yep.
Because, and with that, bring us the next suggested one, right?
Perfect.
I'll second that.
You guys can do what I can't. All right, I got a first and a second. I'll call the vote. All right, you guys got that? All right, and I'm just putting this one out there. This is nothing that I'm gonna ask for anything on. I think this, I'm not even gonna call it a tree ordinance, because I know that one got slaughtered, like our FP&L tree line does from time to time. In exchange, I've talked to some of the old council members who are behind what they were looking at in the intention, and all I'm looking at is, my original intention was new development. But at the end of the day, it's not about saying we need a professional arborist. You can't cut down the tree. You can cut whatever tree you want down on your property. All I'm saying is, at some point, if we can go out there and determine the diameter, at some point, an environmental impact of that tree, whether it's stormwater and flooding or the birds and the native animals in there, there's some kind of off. And I want to extrapolate where we're at and expand it much further as far as the diameters of those trunks. I think right now we have like maybe 2. I would like to see that further out. This is all, there's 4 pages on there. I'm not going to go into any of it. I just wanted, 1, let you guys get it through the sunshine. 2, if we're not going to have the updated LDC anytime soon, I figured I might as well start pushing what I was hoping to get through the workshops, the things that didn't go through, at least bring them up for a second time as article amendments to our LDC rewrite. So that's kind of where that's coming from. Really, it's just food for thought, and I'm going to be hoping we can consider most of it. But at the end of the day, I'm here for a compromise on what's truly fair between land ownership and environmental impact. So I just wanted you guys to have that document. So that is all I have tonight. Ms. Kimberly Kopp.
Hey, thanks, Mayor. Just one thing, the BTRs, you'll see I put together a really short agenda item, but wanted to update you and also let you know that we have a legislative sponsor, which is Councilmember Trammell, to do away with the BTRs, and then we will bring a regulatory type fee replacement to you. It may be a flat fee, and it may be it'll be something that we talk at a future meeting, but the ordinance is basically going to do away with the BTRs because they have caused confusion, as we have seen with the yachts and the livery vessels. People get a BTR, it's a tax, it's non-regulatory, and they think they can operate and they can't. More importantly, the statute limits us on what we can do with the BTRs. We can't change the classifications. We can't increase them by more than 5% every couple of years. The classifications are a problem for finance and IT because as we merge into new software, it's causing huge amounts of time and money impacts that are negative for us because of trying to make that change and getting 98 classifications into new software. So for all those reasons, we're going to propose doing away with them. Again, Councilmember Trammell will be the legislative sponsor, but you all will get to look at the ordinance and vote on 2 readings.
All right, thank you. All right, with that, this is a public comment. If you made it this far, you are a very special person. Other than that, this is your last chance at the apple for comments on this one. If not, you have our email. You probably know where we live, and we'll be back here in 2 weeks. All right, with that, City Council adjourned.